Chapter 80. It will be published tomorrow. Please support me if you can. It only costs 6 or 7 yuan a month. Please subscribe. Li Tianlan's pace was not slow, but he was not running away in a panic. Therefore, Wang Yuetong caught up with him after he had walked less than 100 or 200 meters. Li Tianlan turned around and looked at Wang Yuetong, who trotted over, looking very young. He said calmly, "What's the matter?" These words were neither polite nor polite. They were so cold that they stabbed Wang Yuetong like a knife. Wang Yuetong's face suddenly turned pale. She bit her lips and whispered, "Where are you going?" "Home." After Li Tianlan said that, he felt a slight pain in his heart. Home? Back to Yonghua Villa? Had Qin Weibai left for the airport? Could a villa without Qin Weibai be called home? He took out a cigarette and lit it. He took a deep breath and said flatly, "Back to the Sky Academy." "I'll go back with you," Wang Yuetong said, and subconsciously took 2 steps forward, trying to grab Li Tianlan's arm. Li Tianlan stepped back and looked at her suddenly flustered face. He sighed softly and said, "No need." Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan in a daze. Beside them was a white bridge and green water. The warm morning sun shone down. Wang Yuetong seemed to be covered with a layer of gold. The young man and woman looked at each other silently, like a silent and sad picture. Li Tianlan turned around and left silently. "Senior brother," Wang Yuetong opened her mouth and called out, almost muttering to herself. "Senior brother." Wang Yuetong rushed up again. Her red lips were tightly pursed and her face was stubborn. With a kind of stubbornness, it seemed that she would not turn back until she hit the south wall. She held Li Tianlan's hands together and did not speak. It seemed that she wanted to act shamelessly again. Does it make any sense? Li Tianlan finally turned around and looked at Wang Yuetong. "Now that you know who I am, you should also know that I didn't play hard to get with you before. It's just that our paths are different and we can't work together." He looked at Wang Yuetong's beautiful eyes, paused, and continued, "In fact, if you think about it carefully, there's nothing between us. You helped me in the entrance maneuver, and I saved you outside the academy. There's nothing unforgettable or sentimental. I know my attitude may make you uncomfortable and unconvinced, but that's just an emotion. After a long time, there'll be nothing between us. Actually, I'm very selfish. When I say that I'm doing all this for your own good, even I feel that I'm being hypocritical. I really don't want to have anything to do with the Wang family of Beihai anymore. You should have heard it just now. As long as I'm alive, I'll get back everything the Li family lost sooner or later. Do you know what that means?" Wang Yuetong did not speak or move. She just held Li Tianlan's hand and looked at him silently. "Do you believe that I will enter the invincible realm one day?" Li Tianlan suddenly asked with a firm expression. Wang Yuetong was stunned and nodded without hesitation. Her eyes were shining. There was no doubt about Li Tianlan's potential. The Li family's inheritance was also well known. The Invincible Manual and the Map of God of War emphasized the state of mind the most. Li Tianlan might have been defeated, but after recultivating, his path could definitely be more stable than before. It was only a matter of time before such a person entered the invincible realm, the kind of invincible realm that could be ranked on the divine list. After seeing Li Tianlan's potential, no one doubted it. "I also believe it." Li Tianlan smiled, patted Wang Yuetong's little hand, and whispered, "So, if I'm lucky enough to live to that day, then we'll be enemies. Don't you understand?" Looking at Wang Yuetong's pale face, Li Tianlan smiled and pulled his hand out of her hand little by little. He nodded and said, "Goodbye." He just turned around. Behind him, a delicate body suddenly rushed to him. Li Tianlan's body stiffened slightly. Wang Yuetong, who hugged him from behind, shook her head desperately and said with a crying voice, "It's not like that. I'm not convinced. Li Tianlan, you bastard, why do you treat me like this? I found that I like you. I just fell in love with you, and you let me fall out of love? Bastard, I just like you, just like you. Why can't you be nicer to me?" There will be a way to solve the problem between the Li family and the Wang family. There must be a way. She just liked him, Li Tianlan's body stiffened in place. At this moment, he was even at a loss. Wang Yuetong became more and more emotional. She held Li Tianlan's arms harder and harder, and she sobbed behind Li Tianlan without hiding it. It was very complicated to like someone, and it might take a lifetime. It was also very simple to like someone, and it only took a moment. Wang Yuetong didn't know when it started. In just a few days, Li Tianlan left a deep impression on her. He was calm, he was when he pulled out his sword, his silence, his indifference, his domineering attitude, and countless Li Tianlan were more and more obvious in her heart. She could clearly recall Li Tianlan's every movement and expression, and even clearly remember every word he said. This man who had barged into her world when she was unprepared had unknowingly taken up residence in her heart. Not convinced? Maybe. Not convinced? It didn't matter. Wang Yuetong didn't want to know when it all started. She only knew that when Li Tianlan said that they would become enemies, her heart convulsed into a ball, and the pain was heart-wrenching. That was love. That was love. Li Tianlan stood quietly in place, feeling Wang Yuetong's increasingly strong hands. He frowned slightly and said, "Let go." "I won't." Wang Yuetong held Li Tianlan tightly. The women of the Wang family of Beihai always dared to love and hate. They were not shy or pretentious. They would cry when they were sad or wronged, and they would laugh when they were happy. When they met someone they liked, they would not let go. Li Tianlan's face was cold. He grabbed Wang Yuetong's tender hands and pried them open little by little. The little princess's skin was so delicate that it seemed that a hard touch would leave a mark, but he hardened his heart and broke away from her embrace. Wang Yuetong didn't speak during the whole process, but she kept exerting force. Her face was red, and her tender hands were red and purple because of Li Tianlan's prying. She bit her lips hard, and big drops of clear tears flowed out of her eyes. She was like a pear blossom in the rain, and her eyes were hazy with tears. But she didn't wipe them, just letting Li Tianlan become blurred in her sight. Li Tianlan looked at Wang Yuetong's red and purple hands, and his heart ached for no reason. But when he thought of the conversation with Wang Tianzong just now, his expression became cold again. Although he never had any hope, after meeting Wang Tianzong, he clearly knew that everything between the Wang family of Beihai and the Li family, including the hundreds of years of friendship, was over. There was no going back. If he and Wang Yuetong were together 20 years ago, it would be a good story for the whole Southeast group. But today, 20 years later, they were together, which was an ill-fated relationship. Looking at Wang Yuetong's sad, helpless, and pitiful face, Li Tianlan's heart trembled slightly. He raised the corner of his mouth and suddenly smiled brightly. Since they couldn't be even, and they couldn't even be strangers, then they should hate each other. It was much better than being entangled now. He stepped forward, reached out, and wiped the tears for Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong sobbed silently and stubbornly looked at Li Tianlan. "Do you know what you look like now?" Li Tianlan laughed softly, and his tone was soft. His heart seemed to be slowly turning cold, and there was no warmth in it. He thought that with Qin Weibai, he could not care about any woman. He thought that for the Li family, he could not care about anything. But in Wang Yuetong's sad and hazy eyes, Li Tianlan suddenly found that he would feel guilty, distressed, and struggled and tangled. "You look like now," he whispered, and his whole body seemed to tremble unnaturally. "You really look like a bitch." Wang Yuetong's body trembled violently, and her teary eyes seemed to become desperate. Li Tianlan took a deep breath, and the smile seemed to be a mask engraved on his face. "You like me? It's strange. We've only known each other for a few days, and you like me? If you're not a bitch, what are you?" He removed his hands from Wang Yuetong's pale face and said calmly, "I hate bitches the most, so, get away from me." Wang Yuetong froze in place. For a moment, she seemed to become a flower without any vitality or water. Li Tianlan turned around and walked away quickly. Walking out of the garden party and along the road, the muscles around Li Tianlan's mouth kept twitching, and he became more and more angry. A gray Audi approached Li Tianlan and was about to slow down. Beep beep, the sound of the car horn sounded. Behind the Audi, a blue Porsche 718 rushed over quickly. The rider in the Audi smiled and sped up slightly. It was better to protect him secretly if he could. The Porsche stopped beside Li Tianlan and the window rolled down. Li Tianlan's heart seemed to explode for a moment. He restrained his emotions and looked at Wang Yuetong in the car. Wang Yuetong's face was still pale, but she seemed to have calmed down. She looked at Li Tianlan and said coldly, "Get in the car." Li Tianlan was stunned and opened the door to get in the car. Wang Yuetong started the car and drove fast. "Don't get me wrong. I won't continue to pester you. As you said, from now on, we're even." The magma in Li Tianlan's heart was quickly extinguished after the violent surge. He nodded silently and said expressionlessly, "I can go back by myself. This is not in line with the etiquette of the Wang family of Beihai. Whether you are an enemy or not, at least now you are a guest of the Wang family of Beihai. I should send you back," Wang Yuetong said lightly. Her tone was empty and cold as if she had lost her soul. Li Tianlan stopped talking. In silence, the Porsche was getting faster and faster. It rushed into the city, out of the city, and gradually approached the Sky Academy. The last 2 kilometers of the Sky Academy was by water. There was only a small bridge for walking on the water. As the Porsche rushed all the way, the bridge was already in sight. "Senior brother." Wang Yuetong, who had been silent, suddenly spoke in a soft voice. Li Tianlan answered subconsciously. "I have imagined countless times what my first love would be like and how romantic and unforgettable it would be." She smiled gently, but tears fell from the corners of her eyes. "Now I have seen and experienced it. It turns out that all my fantasies are too beautiful. Do you know what it feels like to be called a bitch by someone you like?" She said softly, pointing at her heart with a red, purple and bruised little finger. "Here, it's all broken." Li Tianlan's heart trembled, but he did not speak. "I don't like you anymore." Wang Yuetong smiled and cried. She said softly, "I hate you. Today, after getting off the car, we are enemies." The car passed through a forest and slowed down. In the gray Audi, which had been far behind the Porsche, Horsewoman held the phone and looked at the slowing Porsche in front of her. She whispered, "Boss, he will enter the Sky Academy soon." On the phone, Qin Weibai was silent for a moment, and then said coldly, "You can come back. Come with me to Billy State later." At the same time, inside the dense forest, the black-robed man, who had been lurking here, took the recovery potion. Feeling his more and more flexible body and stronger power, his eyes became more and more ferocious and insidious. Beside the black-robed man, Rose turned on an instrument again. On the instrument screen, several red dots were flashing slightly. 2 people are protecting him in secret. Rose glanced at the screen and said calmly, "The one in the Audi is Horsewoman, 200 meters away. The one behind her is an expert of the Wang family of Beihai, who should be the enchantress protecting Wang Yuetong, 320 meters away." There was some surprise in her eyes. "Military counselor is not here. Does this instrument work?" The black-robed man moved his body and said lightly. With the support of the recovery potion, he had recovered his peak strength of the past, and the confidence in his words was more and more obvious. "Who knows? Test subject?" But the old guy at the headquarters said it works. "It is connected to the satellite and can accurately detect the life energy around you." How terrible is the life energy of a thunder-shocking realm expert? Now it only detects Horsewoman and the enchantress, but no third person. And the one closest to you is more than 200 meters away. More than 200 meters. The black-robed man looked at the Porsche less than 100 meters away from him and muttered to himself, too far, so far, how can you save him in time? How can you make it in time?" On the other side of the black-robed man, a slim woman wrapped in black tights put down the phone and came over. She said in a clear voice, "Do it. Rose and I will hold off the enchantress and horsewoman." The black-robed man, "Kill Li Tianlan and seriously injure Wang Yuetong. This is the second master's order. Give me 10 seconds. That's enough." The black-robed man sneered. In his sight, Wang Yuetong and Li Tianlan opened the door and got out of the car. They walked together and stretched out their hands. It seemed to be a very formal handshake. The black-robed man didn't hesitate. He rushed out of the woods like a black eagle. Lightning flashed and thunder roared inside and outside the woods. A large amount of dazzling lightning burst out. The black-robed man's figure seemed to have become blurred in the lightning all over the sky. Horsewoman, who was ready to turn the car around, changed her face dramatically. She broke through the windshield in the car and sprinted forward at full speed. In the rear, the enchantress, who was a little slower, also noticed the situation. She was like a phantom, charging at full speed. Two slender and plump female figures rushed out of the woods behind the black-robed man. Both of them were wrapped in black clothes. They tried their best to stop the rescue of horsewoman and the enchantress. In an instant, the dazzling lightning shattered the nearby woods. The four masters at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm fought with all their strength, risking their lives. On the other side, the black-robed man had rushed to Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong. The lightning spread wildly. At this moment, the black-robed man didn't defend but attacked with all his strength. The sword of the heavenly son of the Li family at the border 20 years ago seemed to reappear in his mind. The soaring sword light surged in his heart. The black-robed man's eyes were crazy. The lightning around him gathered, and his momentum increased again. The hearts of horsewoman and the enchantress sank to the bottom in an instant, and they were cold all over. Just by looking at the momentum, they knew that the black-robed man was an expert at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm who was not much weaker than them. If such a person attacked in person, no matter how talented Li Tianlan was, no matter how noble Wang Yuetong was, how could they be spared? Some were angry, some were looking forward to it, and some were crazy. The lightning was approaching. It was getting closer and closer. Everything happened in an instant. Looking at the lightning that could easily tear her apart countless times, Wang Yuetong only had time to turn her head slightly. It seemed not bad to die with this man. In Wang Yuetong's sight, Li Tianlan's expression was still calm. The dazzling lightning illuminated his face into a livid color. He didn't flinch, but stepped forward in the face of the lightning. The man who had just said that he was selfish reached out, grabbed Wang Yuetong, and pulled her behind him. Wang Yuetong suddenly burst into tears. Vaguely, she seemed to hear Li Tianlan muttering to himself, "So this is the tribulation." The black-robed man, who was covered with lightning, swooped down. The lightning surrounded him, like the grim smile of death. The silver human emperor slipped from the cuff. It was a close call. Li Tianlan held the human emperor tightly and pulled it gently. A slender double sword was unsheathed. Li Tianlan raised the sword with both hands over his head. Above the ninth heaven, thunder was about to strike. The rolling thunder was like the wrath of heaven. "I have a sword." Under the invincible realm, the enemy was a nonentity, and I was a nonentity. Li Tianlan's heart was unprecedentedly united. He once told Dongxing Wudi that he had a sword that the Zhong family and the Tan family couldn't handle. But what he didn't say was that he couldn't handle it either. It was nothing more than a life-and-death struggle. Li Tianlan's long sword trembled. In the blink of an eye, all his essence, qi, and spirit flew up like never before. All his vitality and potential began to burn with the trembling of his long sword. He entered the ice-condensing realm, the fire-flaming realm, and the thunder-shocking realm. At this moment, Li Tianlan was calm and majestic. Demons and ghosts retreated. This was the strongest sword in his life. Even when he had just entered the thunder-shocking realm, he couldn't use it. This was the domain of the invincible manual. How could a sword at the cost of life not be strong? The 21st blade. The shattering of land. The almost invincible lightning rose from the tip of the sword. Li Tianlan's body was straight, but his hair suddenly turned white. Chapter 81. Please subscribe. I only need 6 or 7 yuan a month at most. It's just the price of a pack of cigarettes. Please support me as much as you can. Thank you. The wind blew and the clouds moved. There was a sudden thunder. No one could describe this sword move. The sword light seemed to turn into thunder, rising from the tip of the sword and rushing to the sky hundreds of meters high. In the surging wind and surging clouds, the whole world seemed to be connected in a line in an instant. This was not a sword move at all, but a momentum that seemed to burst out crazily. This was a sword move at the cost of life, the most extreme sublimation and release of essence, qi, and spirit. Li Tianlan's expression was calm, his eyes were dead and gray, and the light also became dim. This sword move seemed to have gone through decades of time. His hair turned white in an instant. His face did not change, but he gave people a feeling that he had completely aged and was almost non-existent. Only the overwhelming sword qi was still raging and surging. It was endless. The lightning in front of the black-robed man was like a firefly in front of the bright moon, dim and lightless. He was still sprinting at full speed, but his pupils contracted completely, and his expression was terrified. In front of him, Li Tianlan seemed to have completely disappeared. In all his senses, there was only a sword that seemed to be able to easily smash everything in the world. The majestic sword intent appeared suddenly like a storm, but it was natural. With Li Tianlan as the center, all the air around him began to twist and shake like never before. Li Tianlan stood with his sword, but his whole body became more and more erratic. The world was in front of him. I was outside the world. 21st Blade, the shattering of land. This was not a simple move, but more of a kind of spirit and momentum that went forward bravely, fearlessly, ignored defense, and dared to smash everything. He concentrated everything on the sword and really, completely broke out. At this moment, when he was still fearless in a desperate situation, Li Tianlan suddenly realized the meaning of the existence of this sword move. Kill the enemy, kill himself, shatter the mountains and rivers, shatter the world, and go forward. Everything happened in an instant. The thunder light between heaven and earth was completely formed. Wang Yuetong, who was behind him, suddenly took a step forward and gently but firmly hugged him from behind. She chuckled and said, "I'm being cheap again, but I'm willing." No. In the distance, the enchantress's almost heart-wrenching scream suddenly sounded. The sound came through the air. The sword light could topple mountains and overturn oceans. The figures of Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong had completely turned into lightning. The sword intent between heaven and earth condensed, carrying the pride and majesty of the Li family for hundreds of years. The figure of the black-robed man had already appeared in front of Li Tianlan. In the face of the majestic sword light that almost reached the invincible realm, he had no choice, and his eyes became more and more crazy. He attacked. Attack. The sword light fell. Seal. In the distant sky, a low voice suddenly sounded. The voice was not loud, but it seemed to reverberate in the depths of everyone's heart. It was low and hoarse, like the mumbling of the Grim Reaper. Everything in the surroundings seemed to freeze in an instant. All of a sudden, the figures of Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong became clear, as if they had lost contact with the sword intent of the shatter of land. The lightning on Black-Robe's body also stopped for a moment. The black-robed man was not surprised but happy, even ecstatic. He could not see anything behind him, but Li Tianlan was only 3 meters away from him. Now he felt that Li Tianlan seemed to be temporarily disconnected from the sword. This was simply the best opportunity for him. It would only take 1 second to kill him and escape unscathed. The lightning around Black-Robe suddenly expanded. Without hesitation, he attacked with all his strength. Instant. The deep and hoarse voice in the distance softly murmured again. Between Black-Robe and Li Tianlan, within 2 meters, a black shadow suddenly appeared. This was a pure shadow, which seemed to be completely distorted by the air. The shadow was just a human silhouette, dark all over, but its arms were almost transparent, leaving only a trace of black. The shadow was lifeless, with a clear smell of death. Hundreds of meters away, a similarly dark figure appeared behind Black Robe. The lightning in the air instantly expanded to the limit. After a short pause, Li Tianlan's sword light rose again, with more momentum. But Black Robe completely ignored the sword light. His eyes were fixed on the black shadow in front of him, and his eyes were horrified, as if he had seen a ghost. Tribulation? His body stiffened in place, and he suddenly screamed. Kill! The low and hoarse voice continued to ring, but it became more and more gloomy and cold. Behind Black Robe, 100 meters away, the black figure raised its palm. The shadow in front of Black Robe raised its hand at the same time. The figure rushed to Black Robe. The black shadow also rushed to Black Robe. The shadow rushed through the body of the black-robed man. The figure in the distance suddenly disappeared and appeared directly in front of Li Tianlan. The shadow that rushed into the body of the black-robed man exchanged places with him and appeared where he had been just now. This was the true shifting shadows. It was dazzling and made one's scalp go numb. A dark figure stood in front of Li Tianlan, facing him, with a serious look in his eyes. Behind him, all the lightning disappeared, and Black Robe's figure stopped where he was. Blood mist rushed out of his body all over the sky. His eyes were wide open, and he shook and fell to the ground, dying with everlasting regret. Instant kill. Black Robe said that it would take less than 10 seconds to kill Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong. But this man in black who suddenly appeared killed Black Robe in less than 1 second. This was a silent and strange man. A silver mask covered his face so that his appearance could not be seen. He was slightly short, no more than 1.7 meters tall at most. His body was thin and looked very inconspicuous. But at this moment, he stood in front of Li Tianlan with killing intent all over his body. In addition to weirdness, there was only extreme sharpness in him. Defend. Feeling that the sword in front of him was completely out of Li Tianlan's control, Black Robe's eyes focused and he spoke again. Everyone knew what the consequences of this sword would be. This was definitely not the result he wanted. As soon as the word came out, four shadows appeared around Black Robe again. 4 black shadows rushed in 4 directions, and all the air in all directions suddenly twisted violently. There was no thunder, no raging fire, and no ice. After the harsh sound, there was a crazy surging airwave, whistling like a tide. All the air was twisted in a visible form and gathered in Li Tianlan's direction. On the other battlefield, whether horsewoman, enchantress, rose, or moonlight, the lightning around everyone began to flicker, and it became weaker and weaker in the turbulence of the air. Let's go. Moonlight's expression changed. She looked at Black Robe's body on the ground and pulled Rose to break out of the encirclement without hesitation. Black Robe standing in front of Li Tianlan did not stop them. He just stared at Li Tianlan in front of him, and his eyes became more and more serious. Horsewoman and enchantress hesitated, gritted their teeth, and rushed to Li Tianlan. Stop. Black Robe's low and hoarse voice sounded, and his tone was gloomy. Horsewoman and enchantress were stunned and stood still. The man in front of them could be said to be a famous madman in the whole dark world. He was the only person with double wind veins in Jianghu state for hundreds of years, the strongest assassin in Jianghu state, and also the deputy governor of Sai City, Tribulation. In anyone's view, Tribulation could be said to be a real invincible talent. According to the evaluation of Wang Tianzong of the Wang family of Beihai, if this person had not gone astray, he would have entered the invincible realm, and even could have been on the divine list. But Tribulation gave up his so-called talent and took a path that many people thought was a wrong one. His martial arts did not enter the ice-condensing realm, fire-flaming realm, or thunder-shocking realm. For many years, his realm had stayed in the chi-controlling realm, and he studied tirelessly in the chi-controlling realm. He broke through the limit of the chi-controlling realm again and again. Now few people said that Tribulation was the strongest in the chi-controlling realm. Whether in combat strength or means, he had far exceeded the limit of the chi-controlling realm. No one knew how far he had gone on the road from the chi-controlling realm to the invincible realm, even he himself did not know. Such a figure suddenly appeared here and saved Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong, which meant that he had no malice. Otherwise, how could Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong be alive? Enchantress and horsewoman looked at each other and stood still, waiting. A large amount of air gathered toward Tribulation with the movement of the black shadow and was twisted and compressed into a visible form. The sword light in Li Tianlan's hand was still shining, but his whole body seemed to be frozen. He could not lift the long sword in his hand, nor could he cut down. Countless air was compressed by Tribulation and piled up around him. There were more and more, and the shape became more and more obvious. Tribulation kept moving. An oval formed by compressed air had gradually appeared around Li Tianlan, like a giant cocoon. Clouds of vague and twisted air compressed by Tribulation piled up around Li Tianlan. His and Wang Yuetong's figures gradually became blurred, and only a dazzling lightning was still shining in the air. Destroy. Tribulation's eyes narrowed slightly under the mask and he spoke softly. Boom. The air around Li Tianlan suddenly surged and exploded. The air whistled, and the lightning flashed. With Li Tianlan as the center, a large wave of air flew up in an instant. Tribulation's figure flashed, and he had already exchanged places with the shadow in the distance. He watched all this silently, frowning. The wave of air rolled over the dust and swept through the woods. The dense sword intent directly raised the woods within dozens of meters to the ground, and the dust was flying. In the air, there was still a large amount of lightning surging with the air around Li Tianlan, entangling with each other. This sword is no longer under Li Tianlan's control. If he uses it, he will die. Tribulation wants to force this sword back. This lunatic. Enchantress muttered to herself. What will be the result? Horsewoman asked subconsciously. She was responsible for protecting Li Tianlan, but the object of her protection became like this. Horsewoman's face was pale and she was a little scared. Who knows? This kind of thing has never happened before. The best result should be that he can survive and Li Tianlan will be half disabled, right? Enchantress shook her head and said absent-mindedly. She was obviously worried about Wang Yuetong now. Horsewoman's body shook slightly. At the thought of the boss's possible thunderous rage, her scalp went numb. The lightning and the air were wearing away around Li Tianlan. In the distance, Tribulation suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes grew colder and colder, and he opened his mouth again. Stop. The lightning stagnated again. Countless air masses surged violently and quickly dissipated. The dazzling lightning immediately became dimmer. The air masses dissipated, and the figure of Li Tianlan, whose hair was already white, gradually became clear. Wang Yuetong stood beside him, tears falling like rain. The shining lightning finally dissipated. A large number of air masses also disappeared completely. Puff! Li Tianlan, whose hair was white, knelt on the ground on one knee and spat out a mouthful of blood. Senior brother. Wang Yuetong's voice was frightened and desperate. She didn't know how terrifying the sword just now was, but Li Tianlan was only in the chi-controlling realm. How could he not pay a price for such a terrible sword? Wang Yuetong didn't even dare to think about what the price was. The blood spat out from Li Tianlan's mouth was strangely red, which was dazzling and mournful. Tribulation's body moved slightly, and he switched places with his shadow again, appearing beside Li Tianlan. That sword was so horrible that I could barely suppress 70% of it. How are you now? Tribulation looked at Li Tianlan calmly and asked. Li Tianlan shook his head in silence, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said, "Thank you. We're on the same side. Don't mention it." Tribulation's voice softened a little. I'm Tribulation, the Deputy Governor of Sai City, and also the Deputy Director of the Teaching Office of the Sky Academy this term. I'm in charge of the assassination course. Not far away, the Enchantress, who clearly heard all this, trembled slightly, and her rushing footsteps also stopped. The deputy director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy this term in charge of the assassination course? How could Zhuang Huayang invite this great master who he couldn't suppress at all? Li Tianlan was also stunned. The deputy governor of Sai City, one of his own, he smiled. It seemed that he didn't have to worry about the position of Sai City, which seemed to be a good thing, but now he couldn't be happy in any way. How are you now? Looking at the white-haired Li Tianlan, Tribulation's eyes flashed, and he asked again, with a hint of concern in his tone that he didn't even notice. In this short time, he even talked more than he usually did in a week. Li Tianlan just silently reached out his hand. In his palm, the air was slightly twisted, and a dazzling thunderbolt bloomed in his hand, gorgeous and dazzling. Li Tianlan looked at the thunderbolt in his palm, and smiled absent-mindedly and bitterly. Under the mask, no one could see Tribulation's expression, but his eyes completely changed. At the same time, the enchantress and horsewoman changed their expressions. How could you still be in the thunder-shocking realm? Didn't you suppress it with that sword strike? Horsewoman opened her mouth subconsciously. Her voice trembled, and her face became extremely ugly. After that sword strike, Li Tianlan was still in the thunder-shocking realm, which was definitely not a good thing. After all, this was not his own realm. His physical strength still stayed in the chi-controlling realm. What did this mean? It meant that Li Tianlan's body could completely collapse at any time because it couldn't bear the power of the thunder-shocking realm. Maybe in the next second, maybe in the next minute. Li Tianlan stood up gently, nodded to Tribulation, and said again, "Thank you." Tribulation was silent and didn't say a word. Li Tianlan gently turned around and looked at the Sky Academy on the other side of the water in silence. Only he knew exactly his current physical condition. The shattering of land. After all, Tribulation couldn't completely suppress that sword strike. With the release of sword energy, his vitality was also released. It was almost impossible to suppress that sword strike. It was a miracle that Tribulation could suppress it. But how could he suppress his realm if he didn't completely suppress it? Now Li Tianlan still had one foot in the chi-controlling realm, but the other foot had stepped into the thunder-shocking realm. One foot in the chi-controlling realm, the other foot in the thunder-shocking realm. Such a situation had never happened in Zhongzhou State for hundreds of years. Announcing this reader group, 6705485567, you can come here to discuss the plot. I'll inform you as soon as there's an update, and I'll tell you in advance if it's late. I'm always on call in the group. Chapter 82. Please subscribe 6 or 7 yuan a month. Those who can afford it, please subscribe, take a break and continue to write the third chapter. I won't sleep until I finish it. Brothers, you can get up tomorrow morning to read it. It will probably be late at night. Well, how about 3 chapters tomorrow? The rolling Yangtze River flowed under his feet and rushed to the estuary not far away. As the river flowed, the lofty sentiments flowed away. Standing on the opposite bank of the Sky Academy and looking at the river, no matter how you looked at it, it seemed to give people a feeling of a hero past his prime. The rushing river flowed into the sea, moving forward and never coming back, like youth passing away in a hurry. Looking back, everything that seemed to be near yesterday turned out to be far away, empty and blurred. Li Tianlan stood quietly on the shore, staring at the Sky Academy opposite and the rolling river in front of him. He said nothing and remained silent for a long time. One step was in the chi-controlling realm, and the other was in the thunder-shocking realm. At this moment, it could be said that he was the strongest in his life. He dared to fight with anyone under the invincible realm. But it was also the most lonely time for him. The contradictory feeling of emptiness and expansion in his body kept alternating. From top to bottom, at this moment, Li Tianlan felt like an inflated balloon. It seemed to be expanding, but it was empty inside. It was power that was expanding. It was life that was empty. The afternoon sun was just right, and the flowers were blooming in the warm spring weather. In the refreshing weather, there was a sudden gust of wind and the wind drifted away with the river. Li Tianlan's white hair rose slightly with the wind, and a few pale and lusterless hairs fell down in the wind. They crossed the sight of several people present and finally fell in front of Wang Yuetong. At this moment, everyone could feel Li Tianlan's extremely abnormal strength, but they could also clearly feel his fragility. Under that powerful momentum, his body seemed to be vulnerable. It seemed that if the wind was stronger, his body would be directly shattered by the wind and dissipate between heaven and earth. Senior brother. Wang Yuetong's tears, which had been stopped, suddenly broke down like a broken dam. She cried and walked to Li Tianlan's side, trembling and saying, "Why is this happening? Why is this happening?" Li Tianlan continued to be silent. Wang Yuetong covered her mouth tightly, and tears instantly wet the back of her white and tender hands. The girl, who did not cry even when Li Tianlan called her a bitch not long ago, trembled and cried miserably. Not only Wang Yuetong, but also Horsewoman and the Enchantress were suffering. He possessed the wind and thunder veins and had entered the thunder-shocking realm at a young age. How terrifying was his potential! In time, after entering the invincible realm, he would definitely be a strong contender for the top 5 or even the top 3 on the divine list. Even the Enchantress, who favored Wang Xingxiao in her heart, had to admit that Li Tianlan would become a young heavenly son, and even one of the most powerful contenders for the title of Heavenly Son. But now, with the end of that stunning sword, all of that no longer existed. Li Tianlan was still alive. But the prodigy had already fallen. How long could he live in this state? Even if he could live for a long time, did he still have anything to do with the invincible realm after burning all his potential and vitality? He would never reach the invincible realm. How cruel was that for a person like Li Tianlan? Looking at the back of the white-haired desolate and lonely figure, the Enchantress was silent, and her heart seemed to be a little sad. No matter how unwilling I am, what can I do? Li Tianlan looked at the river and finally spoke. His voice was very low, as if he was muttering to himself, "What can I do?" This was the second time he said this. The first time he said it, he was in the opposite Sky Academy. At that time, when he asked himself this question, the answer in his heart was extremely clear. But this time, when he asked himself again, there was only confusion left. Senior brother. Wang Yuetong, who was trembling and crying, carefully took Li Tianlan's hand and sobbed. "Come back to the Wang family of Beihai with me. I have a way to save you. I must have a way to save you." Li Tianlan took a deep breath. His chest rose and fell visibly. He inhaled and exhaled. It seemed that all the unwillingness and resentment rushed out of his body along with his breath. His pale face, which was almost transparent, became calm again. Looking at Wang Yuetong, whose voice was hoarse and whose delicate red lips were bleeding, Li Tianlan said softly, "Have you forgotten?" He pointed to his chest and said softly, "We are enemies." Wang Yuetong shook her head desperately, and her voice was sad. The sincerity that seemed to have been torn by Li Tianlan seemed to be closed again when Li Tianlan stood in front of her, and then was once again broken by Li Tianlan's white hair. What dignity! What pride! What reserve and nobility! She didn't want it anymore. Wang Yuetong didn't want anything. She just wanted Li Tianlan to be alive, to see him in high spirits, even if she saw his indifference and indifference again. No matter if they were enemies or friends, no matter if they were acquaintances or strangers in the future, as long as he was alive, it was okay. Facing Li Tianlan's calm and indifferent eyes, Wang Yuetong took another step forward and held his body tightly. She said in a hoarse voice, "Please, senior brother, I beg you, come back to the Wang family of Beihai with me. I was wrong. I don't hate you, okay? I beg you. I was wrong, I beg you." Li Tianlan's eyes became hot, and his heart twitched violently. A great sorrow hit his heart, and his eyes were dim. He was almost out of breath. How much did she care about him that she admitted her mistake without dignity? How much did she care about him that she begged so boldly? She didn't do anything wrong. Why should she admit her mistake? Why should she beg? She was the youngest daughter of the young generation of the Wang family of Beihai who was most favored by Wang Tianzong. Li Tianlan could clearly feel his heart twitching violently. At this moment, Wang Yuetong wouldn't know how much the man she loved and hated wanted to hold her in his arms, and Li Tianlan didn't want her to know. She had the persistence and enthusiasm to love and hate, but she might not have the courage to bear some things. Li Tianlan clenched his palm so hard that blue veins stood out on his bloodless arms. He reached out his hands, but not to hug her. Instead, he firmly pushed Wang Yuetong away. The little princess lost her balance and suddenly fell to the ground. "Bitch, get away from me." Li Tianlan's face was cold, but his heart was like a valley full of cold wind and bitterness. With the wind swirling, the whole empty valley seemed to be cold, cold and mocking. Wang Yuetong sat on the ground in a daze, with tears streaming down her face. Her eyes, which were usually pure and enchanting, were red and swollen from crying. There was no anger or sadness in her eyes, only pleading. "You will die, senior brother, you will die. Die." When she said this word, Wang Yuetong only felt that she had no strength in her body, and she couldn't even get up for a while. She just lay on the ground and kept muttering to herself, repeating, "You will die." Li Tianlan turned his head and didn't look at her. The enchantress, who saw all this with her own eyes, suddenly flew into a rage. She was one of the core experts of the Wang family of Beihai and had a very good relationship with Wang Yuetong. They were like sisters and mothers. The enchantress loved and even spoiled Wang Yuetong from the bottom of her heart. Not to mention touching her, even if someone said something bad about Wang Yuetong, the enchantress would turn hostile and kill her. But now the little princess, whom she treasured very much, was pushed to the ground by Li Tianlan and abandoned like grass. He even called her a bitch and asked her to get away from him. The eyes of the enchantress immediately turned a demonic blood red. Lightning flashed on her body. She suddenly took a step forward and stared at Li Tianlan's back. She narrowed her eyes and said in a dangerous tone, "Li Tianlan, help Yuetong up now and apologize to her. Otherwise, I'll make you regret it. Do you believe me?" Horsewoman hesitated. Although she didn't speak, she had already made a gesture to stop her. "I won't apologize." The indifference in Li Tianlan's voice perfectly concealed the trembling in his voice. "She is bitch." "What did I say wrong? Who do you think you are? How dare you insult the princess of the Wang family of Beihai?" The enchantress took a deep breath and tried her best to adjust her state. It was hard enough for her to deal with a horsewoman, not to mention Li Tianlan, who was in the thunder-shocking realm and whose power was unknown. But the enchantress was fearless. Neither her position nor her concern for Wang Yuetong allowed her to take a step back at this time. "He is nothing." Tribulation, who had been silent all this time as if he didn't exist at all, suddenly opened his mouth. His voice was low and hoarse, not cold, but absolutely oppressive. "He is the young governor of Sai City and the future governor." The enchantress, who do you think you are? How dare you be rude to the young governor? Don't get involved in the quarrel of young people. Sai City. The young governor. The enchantress's body shook violently. She was about to take a step forward, but she froze in place and couldn't move. The decision was so hasty and incredible, but when it was said by Tribulation, people had to believe it. In everyone's mind, Tribulation was the future governor of Sai City, and only he was qualified to be the future governor. He was the most amazing assassin in Jianghu state for hundreds of years. Tribulation's existence was even the belief of many killers. He broke through to the invincible realm at the chi-controlling realm. He created the Buddhist incantation of 9 words and vowed to be on par with the Buddhist incantation of 9 words of Taoism and Buddhism. What kind of courage and talent was this? If he could really enter the invincible realm from the chi-controlling realm, even Situ Tsangyue couldn't suppress him. Such a person gave up the position of governor and would rather stand behind Li Tianlan? Why on earth? The enchantress took a deep breath. She had to move forward. Even if she knew she was no match for Tribulation, she didn't want to give in at all. "Do you want to stop me? Go away." Before Tribulation could speak, Wang Yuetong suddenly screamed in a helpless and desolate voice. The enchantress was stunned and stopped where she was. She looked at Wang Yuetong with sad eyes. Wang Yuetong got up from the ground and glanced at Li Tianlan in a daze. Then she suddenly turned around and ran away without looking back. The enchantress glanced at Li Tianlan coldly and followed her without hesitation. Li Tianlan still stood by the river, motionless, like a statue. Whether it was the young governor of Sai City or the provocation of the enchantress, he didn't seem to hear them. The news, which was enough to shake Zhongzhou State, seemed to be blown away by the wind and disappeared in his ears. Tribulation glanced at Li Tianlan with some appreciation in his eyes. He was an assassin, but he was not an emotionless machine. The relationship between men and women was difficult and entangled. To put it simply, it was nothing more than an apology or a confession. When he came, he saw Wang Yuetong and Li Tianlan hugging each other with his own eyes. A girl who was willing to die with him. No matter what happened before, it was all in the past. It was because it was over that he should cherish it more. He could understand Li Tianlan's indifference, and he believed that the enchantress could also understand it. At this time, pushing Wang Yuetong away was exactly the most responsible thing to do. He had the courage to push Wang Yuetong away, but he didn't have the courage to let Wang Yuetong accept the separation of life and death. Wang Yuetong said that the Wang family of Beihai had a way to save Li Tianlan. There might be such a way, but it was definitely not something that Wang Yuetong could get, unless Li Tianlan sold his life to the Wang family of Beihai in the future. And the possibility was not too big. At least in Tribulation's heart, this young man's cold words were very manly. Sadness, even hatred, was much better than the heartbreak when they parted, right? For example, his sister, the governor of Sai City. Tribulation's eyes were in a trance. He looked at Li Tianlan and was about to speak. On the other side of the river, an elderly figure was already rushing over along the bridge. It was Zhuang Huayang, the headmaster of the Sky Academy. Tribulation stood where he was, calm and collected. Zhuang Huayang, who noticed the battle on the shore, rushed over almost immediately. Looking at the end of the battle and Li Tianlan, who had white hair and a strong but empty aura, Zhuang Huayang's heart suddenly sank, but he still asked, "What's going on?" Li Tianlan didn't speak. Tribulation didn't speak either. Horsewoman, who was distracted, didn't bother to say anything. Zhuang Huayang's heart kept sinking to the bottom. The white hair was a sign of excessive burning of life and potential. What did it mean? Hopeless and invincible. Zhuang Huayang's heart trembled slightly. The academics had finally found Li Tianlan, the most valuable person to cultivate. Was it going to lose him? If so, what would the academics' attitude toward Li Tianlan in the future? Zhuang Huayang didn't want to think too much, and didn't dare to think too much. He just said, "Let's go back to the Sky Academy first." "I'm not going back." Li Tianlan finally spoke. He stared deeply at the Sky Academy on the other side of the river and said slowly, "It's meaningless." He slowly turned around and walked away. "Where are you going?" Zhuang Huayang and Tribulation said in unison. "Home." Li Tianlan said lightly. A black Mercedes-Benz rushed to the river at almost full speed. The bright car ignored the obstacles in the battlefield, roared, and finally stopped near Li Tianlan. The door opened, and Qin Weibai got out of the car in a hurry. When she saw Li Tianlan with white hair, she was stunned as if struck by lightning. Li Tianlan looked at Qin Weibai quietly. The corner of his mouth twitched, and his eyes suddenly turned red in front of his woman. His tone was no longer indifferent and calm, but with a kind of unconcealable bitterness. He said in a trembling voice, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid I'll let you down in the future." Qin Weibai, who was dressed in formal clothes, trembled slightly. She clenched her fists tightly, and her nails pierced into her palms. In an instant, blood gushed out. She took a deep breath and slowly came to Li Tianlan. Her eyes were still gentle. "Boss." Horsewoman came to Qin Weibai with some uneasiness and called her softly. "Slap." Qin Weibai suddenly swung her hand and slapped Horsewoman hard in the face. Horsewoman's tall and plump body staggered backward. She didn't dare to resist at all, just bowed her head and said nothing. Her face was stained with the blood of Qin Weibai's hand, but she didn't wipe it. She just stood quietly. I don't want to listen to your explanation. Get back in the car and come with me. Qin Weibai's voice was still cold, but there was a kind of almost irrepressible madness and rage in her words. Horsewoman said nothing and directly got into the Mercedes-Benz. I don't blame her. Really? Li Tianlan looked at Qin Weibai and explained in a low voice. Qin Weibai looked at Li Tianlan again. Both her eyes and her tone became unprecedentedly gentle. Do you trust me? Li Tianlan nodded without hesitation. Qin Weibai raised the corner of her mouth and smiled brightly. She put her arms around Li Tianlan's neck and kissed him gently on the corner of his mouth. She whispered, You'll be fine. Wait for me to come back. She took 2 steps back, took a deep look at Li Tianlan, and turned to the Mercedes-Benz. When she opened the door, Qin Weibai glanced at Zhuang Huayang, who was walking over, and said in a cold voice, Zhuang Huayang, tell the chief behind you that in half a month, at most half a month, I'll return you a good Tianlan. During this time, you'd better not have any evil thoughts. She sat in the car and said calmly, Go to Billy State, right now. Flaming Fire, who was driving, responded and started the car. The car suddenly sped up. There was a dead silence in the car. Qin Weibai sat alone in the back row. She pressed her lips tightly, and her dark and calm eyes flickered slightly. It was determination and madness at all costs. Thank you 54472292, Killer, AK for your support. Chapter 83. Zhuang Huayang took a deep breath and slowly turned around until his figure disappeared from his sight. The battlefield was in a mess. The neat path was completely destroyed. The woods on both sides of the road were in disorder. Countless branches and broken trunks were scattered everywhere. Zhuang Huayang walked indifferently and finally stopped in front of Tribulation. Don't you follow him and protect him secretly? Zhuang Huayang asked casually. There were several top assassins in Sai City, and they were all suitable candidates for the assassination course of the Sky Academy. Zhuang Huayang didn't even expect Breeze and Drifting Cloud to join him when he first communicated with Sai City, let alone Tribulation, the deputy governor. After all, Sai City had been at peace with the world for many years. No one was interested in intervening in affairs outside the Northeast. Situ Tsangyue was such a character, so Zhuang Huayang didn't expect her to send her right-hand man, Breeze and Drifting Cloud, to the Sky Academy. His target was the other assassins, who were slightly inferior to Breeze and Drifting Cloud but qualified to represent Sai City. For example, Demon, Wang Liang, Void Abyss, and Sunset Shadow. Any one of these 4 was qualified for the position in the Sky Academy, and they were more than enough. They were the real targets of Zhuang Huayang's invitation. In recent years, the academics and Sai City had been relatively close. If the 4 assassins came to the Sky Academy, it was enough to show that the cooperation between Sai City and the academics had become closer. For both sides, such cooperation was a complete win-win. Kunlun City had been playing dirty tricks on Sai City in recent years. Situ Tsangyue's setting sun, the murderous weapon of Zhongzhou State, was what Gu Xingyun, the god of war, dreamed of and also his biggest plot in recent years. Even Gu Yunxia's speech at the entrance ceremony of the Sky Academy was part of Kunlun City's operation. If there were no twists and turns in the Sky Academy, it was estimated that her speech would soon spread to Yuzhou and then to the northeast. However, her words were directly blocked by Zhuang Huayang, and the influence of her speech had been greatly reduced. Zhuang Huayang invited the assassins of Sai City to the Sky Academy, which was tantamount to testing the possibility of Sai City fighting back against Kunlun City's increasing small tricks in recent years. If the assassins of Sai City joined the Sky Academy, it would be the first time that Sai City went out of the Northeast since its establishment. It also meant the beginning of the competition between Sai City and Kunlun City. The academics were happy to control the conflict between the two to a certain extent. At that time, the academics could take the opportunity to expand their influence in the special warfare system and give Sai City a certain degree of support. No one would find it troublesome when it was mutually beneficial. However, the only thing that Zhuang Huayang did not expect was that Situ Canyue would send tribulation here. Zhuang Huayang, the headmaster of Jianghu State and the most powerful assassin in this realm, entered the Sky Academy. Kunlun City was not the only one who felt uncomfortable. Even Zhuang Huayang himself felt happy and worried at the same time. By placing tribulation in the Sky Academy, it could no longer be said to be Sai City's counterattack against Kunlun City. The sharpest assassin in Jianghu State stepped into Huading from the northeast. At the same time, it also meant that Sai City, which had always stood aloof from the world since its establishment, was about to completely wake up. Of course, it was not all because of Kunlun City. It could only be because of Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan's influence was even greater than that of Kunlun City. Tribulations coming to the Sky Academy completely showed that Sai City had already known Li Tianlan's identity. Zhuang Huayang knew Li Tianlan's identity, and he also knew the entanglement between Situ Canyue and Li Guangtu in those years. Perhaps all the upper class of Jianghu State had heard of this. It was not difficult to understand whether the hidden god of Jianghu State in Sai City loved Li Guangtu's son or hated him. Now, with the arrival of tribulation and barely saving Li Tianlan, Sai City's position had been obvious. Love me, love my dog? Zhuang Huayang looked thoughtful. He suddenly realized that it was a good move to draw Li Tianlan into the academics. In a short period of time, this young man with a sensitive identity had connected too many things, intentionally or unintentionally. No need. Tribulation spoke slowly. When he did not speak, he seemed to be a shadow in the dark. He was so quiet that even if he stood there, people would involuntarily ignore him. But once he spoke, his low and hoarse voice would instantly attract all attention. In the current state of young governor, he doesn't need anyone to protect him. I can't stop those who can kill him. Zhuang Huayang looked stunned. Young governor? Sai City will announce this news in the near future, confirming Li Tianlan as the next governor of Sai City. Tribulation said in a flat tone. Zhuang Huayang's face changed, and for a moment, his expression was extremely interesting. Two opposite emotions, ecstasy and worry, intertwined in his heart. He opened his mouth and said subconsciously, "This is really an accident." There was too much and too complicated information behind the news that Li Tianlan had become the young governor of Kunlun City. From the perspective of the academics, this was naturally a good thing. The descendant of the lonely Li family joining the academics was completely different from the young governor of Sai City joining the academics. Everyone could only look forward to his potential and growth in the former, while the latter could further strengthen the relationship between the academics and Sai City. Perhaps everyone in the academics was more than happy to see this. But from the perspective of the overall situation of the special warfare system of Jianghu State, this was definitely not good news. Sai City, which had been silent since its establishment, suddenly announced its successor, who was a stranger to most people. Whether most people were curious or not, at least some big forces that had been paying attention to Sai City would definitely do everything possible to find out Li Tianlan's identity. The surname of the young governor of Sai City was Li. This information in itself was an important clue. It was no exaggeration to say that once the news of Sai City was announced, Li Tianlan would be directly exposed to the eyes of all parties. How long could he hide his identity? 1 day? Or 2 days? Once his identity was revealed, the entire special warfare system of Jianghu State would definitely immediately set off a violent storm. The descendant of the Li family became the young governor of Sai City, which would make countless big shots sleepless. The Prince Group, Sai City, Dongqing Clan, Kunlun City, the Wang family of Beihai, Samsara, and even some foreign forces related to those years would be completely involved. At that time, the entire Jianghu State would be filled with gunpowder. How could the academics survive? Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan, Zhuang Huayang muttered in his heart, shook his head, and smiled bitterly in his heart. This is simply a scourge. I suggest Her Highness Hidden God take it slow on this matter. Zhuang Huayang finally spoke. As he spoke, he emphasized again, well, take it slow. Li Tianlan's current physical condition was extremely bad, and no one could see his future. But at least according to Zhuang Huayang's knowledge, it was extremely difficult for him to recover, but it was not impossible. Once he recovered and became the young governor of Kunlun City, both Kunlun City and the Prince Group would rush over to tear him into pieces when his identity was exposed. At that time, the entire special warfare system of Jianghu state would immediately become extremely chaotic, and some foreign forces might even have the opportunity to take advantage of it. No matter how much the academics wanted the right to speak in the special warfare system, it was impossible for them to do so. For hundreds of years, senior officials, generals, and even experts of the invincible realm acted within the rules. If they fought too fiercely and foreign forces took advantage of it, what was the difference between that and treason? Zhuang Huayang was silent. Thinking of the treason case 20 years ago, there seemed to be a trace of haze in his eyes. Yes, take it slow. At least wait for Tianlan to recover first. Tribulation nodded, but his eyes were a little confused. Although Li Tianlan's sword was forced back by him, there was not much potential and vitality left. Tribulation didn't know why Li Tianlan still had one foot in the thunder-shocking realm, but it should have something to do with his excessive overdraft of vitality. Although he couldn't figure it out, it was the only explanation. It was easier said than done to recover from such a strange state. Did he really have to contact the Wang family of Beihai? At present, it seemed to be the only way for Li Tianlan to recover. The Wang family of Beihai did have a way to save Li Tianlan, but he couldn't come up with a decent bargaining chip. Talking to Wang Tianzong about this was not drawing his blood at all, but digging his heart. The murderous weapon-setting son of Sai City was powerful enough, but it belonged to Jianghu state. Sai City had the right to use it, but not the right to trade. Tribulation stood quietly. The mask that almost covered his whole face was shining. His expression couldn't be seen, but his eyes became obviously agitated. What is Tianlan's situation now? Zhuang Huayang glanced at Tribulation and suddenly asked. His body is very poor, but his combat capability is very strong. Tribulation answered subconsciously, but his mind was obviously not on it. In short, let's put off the matter of young governor. If he can recover, it's better to announce it after he graduates. Zhuang Huayang said seriously, that's the best time. I will also tell Her Highness Hidden God my suggestion. 3 years later, Li Tianlan graduated. If Li Tianlan could recover in these 3 years, it would be enough for the academics to completely value him. 3 years' time would also allow the academic faction to get closer to other parties. 3 years later, the midterm change was almost settled. As the current ruling group of Jianghu state, there would definitely be an outbreak after the chief stabilized the situation. At that time, the academics would not be the dominant force, but at least the academics would be stronger than it was now. That would be the time when everything would be ready. As for now, everything was still clear, and the future was uncertain. If Li Tianlan's identity was exposed, once the Prince Group and Kunlun City went all out, their strength would not be enough, or even far behind. Once the conflict broke out, Sai City was bound to go all out. But the crux of the problem was that Sai City had stood aloof from the world since its establishment. When this organization was mentioned, people would think it was very powerful, but when they thought about it carefully, they didn't know how it was powerful. Sai City, with less than 1,000 people, was basically supported by Situ Tsangyue and several top assassins. As a newly established giant force, compared with Kunlun City and the Prince Group, Sai City was far behind them in terms of scale and foundation. The Dongxing clan seemed to be close to Li Tianlan now, but the actual relationship was confusing. Zhuang Huayang could not guarantee what kind of support the Dongxing clan would give Li Tianlan when the great change happened. Even if they were willing to go all out, the giant group had always been very loose. It would be good if they didn't make trouble for the Dongxing clan. It had never happened to expect them to work together. Even if it was the academics, everything Li Tianlan had shown now seemed not enough for the academics to make up their mind to fight the Prince Group in Kunlun City at all costs, especially in this sensitive period. Everything was not clear yet, so it was better to keep a low profile. Tribulation glanced at Zhuang Huayang and turned to the Sky Academy without saying a word. Zhuang Huayang frowned slightly, but he also knew that the Lord of Shadow in Zhongzhou State was notoriously difficult to get along with. He smiled helplessly and was ready to leave. Suddenly, a cell phone rang. Zhuang Huayang froze for a moment and then answered. On the phone, Qin Weibai's cold voice sounded. Headmaster Zhuang, is there another body at the scene? Zhuang Huayang froze for a moment and saw the black-robed man lying on the ground not far away. Yes. He nodded and chuckled. Keep it. Qin Weibai's tone was indifferent. I left in a hurry. Maybe I've seen that person. Zhuang Huayang said yes with a smile and hung up the phone. At the same time, inside the garden party, Wang Yuetong, whose eyes were red and swollen from crying, rushed through a picturesque antique bridge and came directly to the octagonal pavilion in the center. In the pavilion, Wang Tianzong's figure was still sitting there, seemingly meditating. At this moment, he was no longer the center of the world when he was completely quiet. At this moment, he seemed to have become a part of the pavilion. One could not even feel his existence by feeling alone. Wang Yuetong hesitated for a moment, gritted her teeth, walked over and said softly, Dad. Wang Tianzong, who seemed to be thinking, suddenly came to his senses. Looking at his baby daughter's red and swollen eyes, his eyes suddenly focused. What's going on? Did that guy dare to bully you? No. Wang Yuetong shook her head in a panic. He didn't bully me. He saved me again. Someone just attacked me. 3 Thundershocking Realm Experts. 3 Thundershocking Realm Experts. No matter where it was a considerable force. No one thought that it was aimed at Li Tianlan. If they wanted to kill Li Tianlan, a Thundershocking Realm Expert would be enough when others didn't know his details. It was a surprise attack team, and a few days later, 3 Thundershocking Realm Experts attacked again. Everyone would think that it was aimed at Wang Yuetong. Wang Tianzong narrowed his eyes slightly and said in a flat tone, Where is the enchantress? Sixth sister was entangled with someone at that time. Wang Yuetong bit her lip and tried to calm down. She whispered, Dad, senior brother Tianlan saved me again at the critical moment. He made a sword move and burned his potential and vitality. Can you save him? Wang Tianzong glanced at her. His eyes were not sharp, but even gentle. But under his gaze, Wang Yuetong was unprecedentedly nervous. How do you want me to save him? Wang Tianzong asked lightly. I want a bottle, does he deserve it? Wang Tianzong didn't wait for Wang Yuetong to finish and interrupted her directly. Does he deserve it? I don't deserve it. How can he deserve it? He saved you, and I will thank him in my way. But it's impossible for me to get what you want. Wang Yuetong's face suddenly turned pale, and crystal tears swirled in her eyes again. She tried hard to hold them back, and her hoarse voice was pleading. She whispered, Please, Dad. It's no use begging me. Some things are the foundation of the Wang family of Beihai. Can I give them to you if you act coquettishly? Wang Tianzong's eyes gradually became stern. Yuetong, you're too capricious. I'm very disappointed in you. Maybe it was a mistake to let you come to Huading from the beginning. Wang Yuetong stood where she was, lost in thought. After a long time, she smiled sadly and whispered, Yes, it was a mistake from the beginning. Wang Tianzong turned his head to look at the pool outside the pavilion and said calmly, Don't talk about it anymore. I don't agree. Dad, go down. Wang Tianzong suddenly opened his mouth and said in a deep voice. Wang Yuetong finally couldn't help but shed tears. She glanced at her father's back and turned to leave. Wang Tianzong didn't look back. He just sat where he was and shook his head. He said calmly, Outrageous. Who are you talking about, Your Majesty? An old and gentle voice rang out. Xianxia, dressed in a Taoist robe, walked into the pavilion with a gentle smile and eyes as bright as stars. I've spoiled Yutong. Wang Tianzong stood up and said with a smile, sorry to make you laugh. Please sit down. Her Royal Highness is a little lucky star. Without her, how could you find such a talent like Li Tianlan? Xianxia sat opposite Wang Tianzong with a smile and said calmly. Talent? Not anymore. I heard that he just burned his vitality and potential. I don't know the specific situation, but judging from Yuedong's appearance, I'm afraid she's not much better. Wang Tianzong shook his head and said calmly. He should have a tribulation recently. It's his destiny. Xianxia smiled and said, he should be saved. It's not worth it. Wang Tianzong thought about it seriously for a while, and then said resolutely. Xianxia smiled and said nothing. He never forced others to change their minds. He didn't miss a word that should be said. Whether the other side listened or not, it was none of his business. Don't you want to ask what's going on? Xianxia asked with a smile. It's good that Yutong is fine. Wang Tianzong sighed. That girl was out of her wits. What can I ask? Let's wait for the enchantress to come. He paused and said calmly, do you know who the attacker is? I know their general location, but I can't say it. Xianxia chuckled and pointed to the top of his head. If I say it clearly, I'll be punished by God. The most he could do was to give some advice to some people in the Wang family of Beihai. The collision of superpowers was related to the international trend. Even if Xianxia could manipulate some national fate, he didn't dare to say it rashly. Metaphysics grandmasters all believed in destiny and mysteries of heaven. Some things couldn't be said. That was the rule. Wang Tianzong glanced at him and nodded with a smile. Play chess. Okay. Xianxia took out a chess piece from the chess box and put it on the chessboard carved on the stone table. Wang Tianzong also raised his chess piece and put it down. Black and white were spreading on the chessboard. Boom! Before the game was finished, a violent explosion suddenly sounded. Instantly, the fire in the garden party soared into the sky. The violent explosion almost spread over the mountains, and the whole garden party was shaking violently. The alarm device in the garden party sounded immediately. Wang Tianzong's expression changed, and his body suddenly disappeared. A white chess piece swirled in the air and finally fell on the chessboard. Xianxia, who was in the roar, looked calm. He just stared at the expectation in front of him, squinted and chuckled. Good move. He looked at the direction where Wang Tianzong left, shook his head, and muttered to himself, the place where destiny belongs. When the chosen one rises, the violent explosion still sounded, drowning out all the old Taoists' murmurs. May 2nd. It was the second day since Wang Tianzong came to Huading for the first time in 5 years. The garden party suffered an inexplicable attack. To some extent, the garden party, which represented the face of the Wang family of Beihai in Huading, exploded, and nearly 1/3 of the area was destroyed. Wang Xingxiao, the heir of the Wang family of Beihai, was seriously injured. Little Princess Wang Yutong. She disappeared mysteriously. Chapter 84. The third chapter will be released before 12:00. Please subscribe. When he returned to Yonghua Villa, Li Tianlan was surprised to find that there were police cars and policemen everywhere near the 9th building. The 7th building nearby had been cordoned off. Many plainclothes policemen and policemen hurried in and out with solemn faces. It seemed that there was a murder case. In addition to the police, some moving companies' vehicles were also concentrated nearby. They were loaded with furniture and drove out of the villa area. Several villa area security guards were patrolling nearby. They were neatly dressed, but they all looked helpless and at a loss. Li Tianlan didn't intend to join in the fun, nor was he in the mood. He just vaguely heard people's discussion. The owner of the 7th building who was killed was a well-known local entrepreneur and seemed to have a close relationship with some people in the district. Now the family of 4 and 5 bodyguards all died tragically at home. It seemed that they had offended some big shots. There were not many onlookers around, but those who dared to come were basically not afraid of trouble. Some people excitedly discussed the cause of death of the deceased, such as burglary, intentional murder, and so on. The scenes of gratitude and hatred were vividly described by their mouths, as if everyone had personally experienced the knife and sword shadows in the 7th building. With a head full of white hair, Li Tianlan walked through the crowd expressionlessly and opened the door of Villa number 9. He had no interest in understanding what was going on outside, but he guessed that what was going on outside had something to do with him. The cause of death of the owner of the 7th building was unknown, so Li Tianlan would not make wild guesses. But he felt that the craze of moving in the villa area had something to do with him. The night before yesterday, Tan Qinghua led a team to rush into Yonghua Villa. The appearance of Dongqing Wudi did not cause too much conflict, but it must have aroused the uneasiness of the nearby owners. The sensitivity of the 7th building was the catalyst. It was probably because of this that many owners felt that Yonghua Villa had become a place of trouble. It was a good choice to temporarily avoid it. A place of trouble and a person of trouble. Li Tianlan opened the door of the villa and laughed at himself. The villa was clean and tidy, and everything was neatly arranged. Li Tianlan quietly went upstairs and walked into the bedroom. The bedroom was filled with the rich and natural fragrance of Qin Weibai. There seemed to be a trace of ambiguity in the air. The bed had been changed with new sheets and the quilt was neatly laid on the bed, looking cozy and warm. Li Tianlan didn't take off his clothes. He lay quietly on the bed, and his emotions were so calm that he was almost numb. He closed his eyes and silently felt his body. The extremely powerful force in his body seemed to be still expanding, as if there was no end. But he knew very well that it was because his vitality was still passing away. He was still alive mainly because tribulation had pressed back his sword along with part of his vitality. But vitality was overdrawn. Although it still existed in his body, it was more like a temporary storage. It was passing away every minute and second. Maybe it wouldn't be long before he became a lifeless corpse. Li Tianlan gritted his teeth, but his expression was as cold as a glacier. He sat up from the bed, calmed himself down, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. No matter whether the road ahead was a dead end or a smooth road, he would not give up or despair. If the end of his fate was really doomed, he just wanted to do something in the limited time he had left. He had to do something. At the very least, he could not wait for death in silence. In the bedroom filled with a faint fragrance, Li Tianlan closed his eyes and completely emptied his mind. Time passed bit by bit, and his breathing became slower and steadier. He seemed to have become a statue. The sun was setting. The sun was setting. The moon was high in the sky. When the moonlight covered the whole villa area, a sweet doorbell suddenly rang, interrupting Li Tianlan's deep meditation. Li Tianlan opened his eyes in a trance, took a deep breath, withdrew from the state of meditation, and slowly went downstairs. He felt the condition of his body and subconsciously felt a little disappointed. An afternoon of meditation did not improve his body at all. Even his vitality was still passing away, but at a slightly slower speed. The only thing that comforted him was that the feeling of emptiness in his body seemed to be slightly better. It was not obvious, but it was real. Thinking of the bottle of youth he once drank, Li Tianlan fell silent. It should be the effect of the bottle of youth that was working. It was said that youth also contained a large amount of vitality. However, the so-called large amount of vitality was only a drop in the bucket compared to his consumption. At most, it could let him live for a few more days. He turned on the monitor outside the door. On the small screen stood a vague figure in the dark. The figure was plump and sexy, but at this time the charming face was full of anxiety and anxiety. The enchantress from the Wang family of Beihai. Li Tianlan was stunned for a moment, and then his heart suddenly sank. What was she doing here? Li Tianlan threw away the monitor in his hand, strode to the door, and opened the door of the villa. Outside the villa, the enchantress was still raising her hand to press the doorbell. Seeing Li Tianlan come out, the core expert of the Wang family of Beihai breathed a sigh of relief and asked directly, "Is Yuetong here?" Li Tianlan's heart instantly sank to the bottom. It was really because of Wang Yuetong. No. He shook his head and said, "What's wrong with Yuetong?" Although she vaguely knew the answer before coming, seeing Li Tianlan shake his head, the enchantress could not help but become more anxious. She took a deep breath, forced herself to calm down, and said, "She is missing. Someone attacked the garden party at noon today. Xianxia was seriously injured, and Yuetong was also missing." His Majesty immediately went out to chase them, but he did not catch them. Crack. Li Tianlan's palms suddenly tightened, and his 5 fingers unconsciously penetrated the metal door of the villa. Who did it? Gu Xingyun. Attacking the garden party, seriously injuring Wang Xingxiao, and taking Wang Yuetong away. Now Wang Xingxiao was very likely to enter the thunder-shocking realm. How terrifying was the invincible realm expert with wind and thunder veins. No one could imagine it without facing it personally. In the case that Wang Tianzong rushed over as soon as possible, the other party could seriously injure Wang Xingxiao and take Wang Yuetong away. Moreover, Wang Tianzong did not even catch up with them afterward. Such a person was definitely a real invincible realm expert, and even among the invincible realm experts, he was the kind of person who rarely had an opponent. Among the 4 invincible realm experts in the vast Jianghu state, Gu Qianchuan, the first elder of Kunlun City, who had never been on the holy list, definitely did not have such ability. The other 3 people were on the divine list. Excluding Wang Tianzong, there were only the hidden god of Jianghu state, Situ Tsanyue, and the war god of Jianghu state, Gu Xingyun. Situ Tsanyue ranked 15th and last on the divine list. There was still a gap between her strength and Wang Tianzong's. Even if she attacked first, it was impossible for Wang Tianzong not to catch up with her. In this way, the most suspicious target was only the war god of Jianghu state. Gu Xingyun, the governor of Kunlun City, ranked 4th on the world divine list. In Jianghu state, his strength was the closest to Wang Tianzong's. In the case of taking the initiative, he was the only one who could barely keep Wang Tianzong from catching up. As for other overseas invincible realm experts, they might also be able to do this. But such people were either the patron saints of other superpowers or the masters of a superpower. Not to mention whether they dared to come to Huading at the risk of dying in Jianghu state after being discovered. Even if they did come, what was the point of taking Wang Yuetong away? At the very least, if the other party could seriously injure Wang Xingxiao, taking Wang Xingxiao away would be much more meaningful than taking Wang Yuetong away. It's not Gu Xingyun. The enchantress's face was extremely gloomy. Negative emotions such as uneasiness and irritation appeared on her face, and she could not suppress them at all. His Majesty has spoken to the president on the phone. When the incident happened, Gu Xingyun was holding an internal meeting of the special warfare system in the Hidden Dragon Sea. He was not in Huading at all. For a moment, Li Tianlan's heart was in a mess. The pretty face with tears on it suddenly became extremely clear in his mind. Her pleading and fear, her sadness and despair, "What do you need me to do?" Li Tianlan asked without hesitation. He did not know what would happen to him in the future, nor did he know what would happen to Wang Yuetong. But if Wang Yuetong was really missing and never heard from again, he would not be able to rest in peace even if he died. Don't owe each other anything? The girl who was willing to die with him. The girl who was noble but was willing to put down everything to beg him. How could they not owe each other anything? The enchantress took a deep look at Li Tianlan. From his eyes, she saw worry, anger, uneasiness, and pity. These were the most real emotions. At this moment, all of them appeared in Li Tianlan's eyes. No need. The enchantress felt a little complicated. She shook her head and said, "His Majesty has closed the city as soon as possible. The army, the armed police, the special warfare system, and even the ordinary traffic police have all been on duty and launched a carpet search. The other party must not have left Huading. We will find her. The core expert of the Wang family of Beihai, who threatened to fight with Li Tianlan in the afternoon, looked at Li Tianlan again and said calmly, "Have a good rest. From my point of view, I still hope you can recover as soon as possible." She nodded, said goodbye, and turned to leave in a hurry. Li Tianlan stood at the door for a long time before he turned and walked into the villa. As the door closed, the inside of the villa was dark. Li Tianlan was too lazy to turn on the light. He sat quietly on the sofa. After meditation, his originally concentrated will became chaotic for no reason, making him restless. Beep, 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 in the darkness, a subtle but extremely harsh sound rang. The wristwatch on Li Tianlan's wrist vibrated for the first time since he entered the Sky Academy. The blue signal light flashed on the wristwatch. Li Tianlan's eyes suddenly froze. There were 3 color signal lights on the wristwatch of the Sky Academy: red, blue, and yellow. Yellow represented temporary tasks. Every student could choose to accept or not to accept them. Blue represented urgent tasks. Participation was also voluntary. But once the task was completed, a lot of credits would usually be rewarded. Red represented combat tasks. The academy had no choice. When receiving a task, all the students must be dispatched. This kind of task was basically an emergency. It was first sent to the wristwatch of the academy, and then it would be updated in the mission system of the Sky Academy. Li Tianlan raised his wristwatch and looked at it. The screen of the wristwatch was completely lit up, and the blue signal light representing urgent tasks was still flashing. At 1:23 p.m. today, Wang Yuetong, an outstanding student of the Sky Academy, disappeared near Lanshan National Park. On the screen, line after line of words appeared. There were about 200 or 300 words, which introduced the disappearance of Wang Yuetong in more detail. This was a task issued by the headmaster of the Sky Academy, Zhuang Huayang, who asked every student to try his best to participate in this task. Those who provided clues would be rewarded with 50 credits, and those who found Wang Yuetong would be rewarded with 200 credits. The task specifically noted that this task was 4-star because it was possible to encounter combatants of foreign hostile forces. In the Sky Academy, there was also a credit reward for completing 5 tasks above 4-star in a row. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the screen of the wristwatch. There was no doubt that Wang Tianzong had begun to use the power of the Southeast Group to influence the Sky Academy after failing to find Wang Yuetong in the afternoon. Gu Xingyan was in Yuzhou. So it was very likely that the one who attacked Wang Yuetong this time was the most unlikely foreign force. Because foreign forces were involved, the urgent task issued by the Sky Academy was acceptable. Moreover, it was to find someone, not to fight. So the difficulty of a 4-star task was not outrageous. Li Tianlan silently read the task signed by Zhuang Huayang until the phone rang. Li Baitian's voice came from the phone. "Tianlan, have you come back from Zhongyuan province? Have you read the task issued by the academy? The headmaster doesn't allow me and Brother Awesome to participate. Do you want to have a try?" Li Tianlan said, "Yes, I have this plan. By the way, ask Xianxia if he knows where the largest intelligence organization in Huading is." "How can I contact him?" "You don't have to ask him." Li Baidian smiled bitterly. "I know the most powerful intelligence organization in Huading, but you can't count on it. It's the power of the Lu family in Huading. It has been developing in Huading for decades and is deeply rooted. Its code name is the Curtain. It's the Lu family where Lu Xiuwei is. I guess they have already received the news of Wang Yuetong's disappearance. But they are just pretending and won't really take it seriously. Behind the curtain, the most powerful one is probably the Huading branch of Jiangnan society. You don't have to contact this one. They are originally a part of the Wang family of Beihai, so they will definitely make great efforts to trace it. It is said that Lu Shuanghua, the person in charge of Jiangnan society, has already taken elites from Jiangnan to Huading. As for some other intelligence organizations, it's useless to find them." Li Tianlan suddenly interrupted Li Baidian and said flatly, "I have to contact them." Li Beidian was silent for a moment and said, "Then I will send you the contact information of other intelligence organizations." Before Li Tianlan could speak, a slight voice that almost everyone would subconsciously ignore suddenly sounded upstairs. In an instant, Li Tianlan suddenly stood up, and the human emperor in his sleeve flew out in the most primitive form. The metal tube of more than 10 centimeters stretched in the air and directly turned into a long spear of more than 2 meters. The space in the villa was violently distorted, and lightning suddenly appeared. On the phone, all the sounds of Li Beidian became meaningless syllables in the distorted air. The silver spear shot straight to the 3rd floor. Li Tianlan followed the spear and sprinted in the direction behind the silver spear. The lightning flashed for a moment and then went out in an instant. In the villa without lights on, 9 men in black who had sneaked up to the 3rd floor were wondering why Li Tianlan was not in the bedroom. Just as they continued to explore downstairs, the silver spear and the lightning flashed at the same time. Thunder-shocking, the moment the silver spear flashed, the black-clothed man at the front only had time to scream in horror. Before his voice died away, the silver spear had directly smashed his chest. Li Tianlan, who was irritated and in a bad state, attacked with all his strength. Not only the black-clothed man at the front, but also the 2 elites behind him were pierced by this spear. The silver spear of more than 2 meters rushed over with a violent whistling sound. In the whistling sound, it was an almost irresistible force. Bang! The 3 people who were pierced by the long spear did not even have the most basic struggle. Under the huge penetrating force, they directly turned into flesh and blood flying all over the sky, and died without a whole body. The silver spear continued to rush and was nailed into the wall. Only a few dozen centimeters of the spear body was left outside, shaking violently and causing a large number of cracks in the wall. The 9 people had just met, and a team led by an expert in the fire-flaming realm was completely annihilated. Li Tianlan's body had already appeared in front of the other 2 teams. This was the first time he killed people in Huading. He breathed softly. In the darkness, no one could see that his eyes had become blood-red. The fierceness and madness that had been accumulated in his heart for many years seemed to have found the most suitable breakthrough point, and he could not wait to vent it. There seemed to be a huge will in his heart that kept roaring, "Kill them all, kill them all." At this moment, looking at the scattered blood in front of him, Li Tianlan did not feel anger or killing intent in his heart, only a kind of strange comfort that even he himself felt. Was he also bloodthirsty by nature? "Who asked you to come?" Li Tianlan asked softly, and his eyes were as demonic as the deepest darkness, as if they could devour everything. The 6 people in the remaining 2 teams were trembling violently, and their eyes were full of horror. The news they got was that they came here to kill a non-entity in the Qi-controlling realm, and the intelligence said that the other party was likely to have the strength of the fire-flaming realm. Before the action, no one took the target they were about to kill in mind. So what if he had the strength of the fire-flaming realm? 3 fire-flaming realm experts led the team, and 6 ice-condensing realm experts assisted on the side. Killing a non-entity in the Qi-controlling realm was like shooting a mosquito with an anti-aircraft gun. They came full of confidence, but hit an iron plate of the thunder-shocking realm. The Qi-controlling realm? This was obviously the F*King thunder-shocking realm. The 6 people subconsciously stood together, looking terrified. For a moment, they even forgot to curse the person who gave them the news. The Zhong family? Li Tianlan looked at them and asked patiently, his tone becoming softer and softer. The Tan family? Still no one spoke. Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows slightly, stretched out his hand, and suddenly pulled in the air. The dazzling lightning flashed away. In the twisted air, a scream suddenly sounded and disappeared. In an instant, among the 6 people, one of the teams had completely disappeared, and there was not even a trace of blood, only a pile of ashes. Li Tianlan looked at the other team and chuckled, "Who the hell is it?" It's the task given by Mr. Liu." The 3 people in the last team completely broke down. The team leader trembled and suddenly knelt on the ground. "Spare me, please spare me. I can take you to the headquarters of the curtain, and I can help you find Mr. Liu. Spare me. Mr. Liu." The curtain. The light in Li Tianlan's eyes flashed away. In the past few days, the Tan family and the Zhong family had become the two wealthy families that attracted his attention the most. Hearing the name Mr. Lu, he even forgot who it was for a while. But once the curtain and the Lu family were combined, plus Li Baitian's phone call just now, Li Tianlan immediately knew the mastermind behind the scenes. The Lu family of Huading. Revenge at this time? It was a good time. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes with a cold expression. Where is the Lu family? Li Tianlan looked at the three people who knelt in front of him and said calmly. I can take you there. The team leader of the fire-flaming realm raised his head, looking expectant. No need. Li Tianlan raised his hand again. In the other party's frightened and desperate eyes, there was a flash of lightning. 9 people, 3 teams, all wiped out. Li Tianlan suddenly thought of a sentence. As he muttered to himself, this sentence also drifted farther and farther in the dark villa, with extreme killing intent. None of my enemies survived. Thanks to the wind and snow. Chapter 85. This chapter is almost 7,000 words. This chapter is yesterday. There are 2 more chapters today. Please subscribe. As an important part of Kunlun City and even the entire Special Warfare Group, the Lu family might not be the most powerful in Huading, but it had the longest history. Especially after Huading was captured by the Prince Group, several wealthy families in Huading shifted their business focus and moved their headquarters. After leaving only a branch in Huading, the Lu family became one of the few local wealthy families that had the deepest roots in Huading. The Lu family had been developing in Huading since it appeared. When the city was in the hands of the Wang family of Beihai, the Lu family was a wealthy family. When it fell into the hands of the Prince Group and formed the current situation of independent rule, the Lu family was still a wealthy family. The children of the Lu family had diversified development and had been involved in various fields for many years. They were not the top wealthy family in Jianghu state, but one of the most stable families. Even after Lu Tianqing, the most outstanding figure of the Lu family in recent decades, stepped into the invincible realm, Lu Tianqing, who stood at the peak of power in Jianghu state, did not help the family with great fanfare. Instead, he let the Lu family develop slowly with his power. At Lu Tianqing's peak, the Lu family had also entered the ranks of the top wealthy families in Jianghu state. If he had not been killed in a fair duel, the Lu family would have had the hope of becoming a top wealthy family. It was undoubtedly a pity, but also a blessing. Although the Lu family's stable and calm style hindered their development to a certain extent, it also saved the whole family. Situ Cangyue and Lu Tianqing fought on the top of Taibai, a new invincible realm assassin against a veteran invincible realm expert. Maybe some people foresaw that Lu Tianqing would lose, but absolutely no one thought that Lu Tianqing would die. Lu Tianqing's death completely established the reputation of Sai City, and at the same time, directly pushed his family to the edge of the cliff. When the bad news came, the whole Lu family did not cry or make a fuss. Instead, they made a lot of compromises at once. Lu Tianqing's younger brother, Lu Tianjing, was the mayor of Huading at the time. Judging from the situation at that time, he was very likely to go one step further. Even if he did not reach the top in Huading, he was very sure that he could enter Yuzhou and the cabinet. As long as he took this step and Lu Tianqing did not die, the Lu family would become one of the top wealthy families in Jianghu state. At that time, Lu Tianjing had a good reputation. In fact, even if Lu Tianqing died, there was still a possibility for him to succeed. But Lu Tianjing compromised in silence, gave up the opportunity to enter the cabinet, and gave the position to the academics intentionally or unintentionally. Soon after, Lu Tianjing retired completely. Just when everyone thought that the Lu family was about to disappear, Kunlun City made a gesture to protect the Lu family, and the academics also gave limited support. After that difficult time, the Lu family began to develop their well-established intelligence organization. Over the years, the intelligence department of the curtain had been going deeper and deeper into Huading. Today, it had formed the largest intelligence network in Huading. Among the local wealthy families in Huading, the Lu family was far behind the Zhang family in terms of connections, prestige, and influence. In terms of overall strength and development prospects, the Lu family was no match for the Tan family. However, in the field of intelligence, even if the Zhang family and the Tan family combined, they would not be able to match up to the Lu family. In recent years, although the Lu family had fallen from the first tier to the second tier, its foundation in Huading had become more and more stable. The influence of Lu Tianqing's death on the Lu family had almost completely disappeared. 5 years ago, the Lu family and the Tan family were connected by marriage. 3 years ago, Lu Xiucheng, the son of Lu Tianjing, the old master of the Lu family, who was only 42 years old, successfully entered the municipal government from the position of the mayor of Yunjian district and served as the third deputy mayor of Huading. The younger generation of the Lu family, Lu Dongchao and Lu Dongyu, also began to make their mark in the Sky Academy. The foundation of the curtain was getting deeper and deeper. At the beginning of this year, Lu Xiuwei, who had taught at the Sky Academy for 3 years, finally stepped into the teaching office and became one of the deputy directors of the teaching office. At the beginning of this year, there was a rumor that Zhou Shiru, the executive deputy mayor of Huading and a leading figure of the academics, was likely to be transferred to a province in the northwest of Zhongzhou state as the governor in preparation for the midterm change in 2 years. Once this rumor became a reality, Lu Xiucheng was likely to take over Zhou Shiru's position. The whole Lu family seemed to be thriving. Such a Lu family no longer pinned all its hopes on one person, and its vitality was destined to be more tenacious. Lu Tianjing, who was already old, even looked forward to the day when the Lu family returned to the first-tier wealthy families every day. But as a result, the entrance maneuver of the Sky Academy, which no one cared about, completely disrupted the deployment of the Lu family. Lu Xiuwei was killed. Lu Dongchao was killed. In the 10 years after Lu Tianqing's death, the Lu family had never suffered such a heavy loss. Such a result made Lu Tianjing, who had been dreaming almost every day, almost go crazy. He had to take revenge. How could he not take revenge? But as the Sky Academy went on holiday, a series of events made Lu Tianjing's heart heavier and heavier. Li Tianlan disabled Zhong Xiaofeng. Ning Qianqing killed Tan Shilai. Qin Weibai and Zhuang Huayang protected him. It was said that Dongqing Wudi also appeared in Yonghua Villa that night. Lu Tianjing was steady. Just listening to these names, he could feel a heavy pressure. He was not afraid, but he still hesitated about whether to take revenge now. Until today, after receiving a phone call, Lu Tianjing, who had not made up his mind, finally took action. 3 experts in the fire-flaming realm and 6 in the ice-condensing realm. This was definitely a big assassination. Lu Tianjing had no choice. He had sent people out. At this moment, he could only wait quietly for the good news. Today was the Lu family's family banquet. In the independent small manor of the Lu family, almost all the members of the family were present. Men and women sat at the table in the spacious dining room. In front of them was a sumptuous dinner, which looked very grand. But the atmosphere in the dining room was extremely depressing. The Lu family had been in a difficult situation for many years, which also made them develop a good habit of unity. At the family banquet at the beginning of every month, without 2 important figures, Lu Dongchao and Lu Xiuwei, everyone felt extremely depressed and uncomfortable. "Uncle, why don't we eat first? We don't have to wait for them to come back." "Don't worry, the candidates for this action were personally selected by me. They are neat and cooperate well. They are all elites and won't fail." At the table, Lu Xiuyuan, the eldest son of Lu Tianqing, looked at the large table of dishes in front of him, moved his mouth, and said in a low voice. He was the only expert in the thunder-shocking realm in the Lu family, and his strength could be said to be the true inheritance of Lu Tianqing. Although he had not reached the peak of the thunder-shocking realm, he was only a step away. With such strength, he could be ranked among the absolute experts in the whole Huading. Because of this, the Curtain Intelligence Organization that he personally took care of for many years had developed smoothly. "I'm not hungry. Wait a little longer. Lu Tianjing waved his hand and said in a low voice. Looking at the rich food on the table, the old man, who had been low-key and steady all his life, felt more and more uneasy. He didn't know where this uneasiness came from. According to the intelligence, Li Tianlan's realm was indeed in the qi-controlling realm, and today he seemed to be seriously injured in front of the Sky Academy and his hair turned white in an instant. In this state, Li Tianlan was almost vulnerable. The force they sent to assassinate him had almost no possibility of failure. But Lu Tianjing always felt uncomfortable in his heart, and as time went by, this feeling became more and more obvious. Maybe it was because he had never taken risks in his life, so he was worried about gains and losses. Lu Tianjing laughed at himself in his heart. He shook his head and said again, Xiuyuan, call them again and confirm the progress of the action. Lu Xiuyuan nodded, took out his mobile phone and began to dial. Lu Tianjing waited silently and didn't say a word. Soon, Lu Xiuyuan put down the phone and shook his head, saying, I can't get in touch. Lu Tianjing's heart sank, and the atmosphere in the dining room became more and more oppressive. Dad, maybe our people are too cautious. Maybe they turned off or muted their phones just in case. Next to Lu Tianjing, a gentle and elegant middle-aged man said. His voice was deep and steady, with an indescribable appeal. Lu Tianjing felt a little relieved. He glanced at his son and nodded slightly. After the death of Lu Shuwei and Lu Dongchao, his son, who served in the municipal government and might become a member of the standing committee of Huading in the near future, became the biggest hope of the Lu family. The big shot on the phone today had made it clear that if tonight's matter was successful, he was willing to help Lu Xiuqing fight for the position of deputy secretary, not to mention the standing committee of Huading municipal government. Grandpa, don't worry. I know Li Tianlan's strength. He can't cope with our assassination team. He can't turn the tables no matter how capable he is when 3 fire-flaming realm experts attack together. Tonight, he will definitely avenge my brother and uncle. Lu Dongyu sat in front of the table, her charming and sexy body straight. Her eyes were cold and her tone was bitter. That's right. When they bring that little bastard back, pull out his tendons and peel off his skin if he's alive. If he's dead, grind his bones and scatter his ashes. After Lu Dongyu, another middle-aged man with a gloomy face said viciously. He was Lu Tianjing's youngest son, Lu Xiuhe, who currently controlled all the business forces of the Lu family. In fact, it was just a logistics company. In terms of business, the Lu family had a short start and poor foundation, which had always been their shortcoming. In addition, after Lu Tianjing's death, many industries were thrown out as bargaining chips for self-protection. Now the Lu family had just recovered. The so-called logistics company was only 2 or 3 billion, which didn't match the status of a wealthy family at all. Lu Xiuhe had a bad temper. He was a playboy when he was young and couldn't be of great use. Letting him control the logistics company was a good use of his talents. Lu Tianjing twitched the corner of his mouth. He looked at the quiet and calm Lu Xiuyuan beside him and continued, call another one. Lu Xiuyuan nodded slightly and took out his mobile phone to dial again. Li Tianlan calmly held up the mobile phone and said, I'm just asking who called just now. What do you think? Who do you think you are? You killed my cousin and my uncle. Li Tianlan, do you really think you are invincible in the world? Why don't you take a piss and look in the mirror? Look at you now, you look like neither a human nor a ghost. It's disgusting. Get out of here. The Lu family is not a place for you to behave atrociously. A young woman suddenly stood up, stared at Li Tianlan, and said in a vicious tone. Li Tianlan chuckled. In the next second, the silver spear, which was more than 2 meters long, suddenly stretched out from his hand. The spear style was fierce and crazy. As everyone's pupils suddenly contracted, Li Tianlan stabbed the young woman's heart with the spear. Bang! In the dull sound, everyone's heart trembled fiercely. A big hole suddenly appeared in the young woman's chest, from the front to the back, dripping with blood. Whose daughter is this? Li Tianlan held the spear with one hand and asked casually as he stabbed. There was a second of silence in the restaurant. A heart-wrenching scream suddenly rang out, "You lunatic!" Beside the young woman, a lady covered with jewels stood up and pounced on Li Tianlan as if she were crazy. Li Tianlan swung the spear casually. The lady's head flew into the sky, and blood splattered. "Whose wife is this?" Li Tianlan continued to ask without any fluctuation in his tone. Cold-blooded, straightforward, crazy, overbearing, and killing without batting an eye, this man was a lunatic. This was the only thought in the hearts of everyone in the Lu family. "You!" A neatly dressed middle-aged man stood up. He was not angry or frightened, as if he couldn't believe everything in front of him. He glanced at the bodies of his wife and daughter in a daze and suddenly raised his head. But as soon as he said a word, Li Tianlan's spear had directly pierced through his neck. The 2-meter-long spear went through the middle-aged man's neck and smoothly stabbed into the wine cabinet behind him. The whole wine cabinet was instantly smashed, and wine and blood flowed together. Li Tianlan put away the spear expressionlessly and said again, "Whose son is this?" "Enough." A furious roar suddenly sounded. Lu Xiaoyuan, the only thunder-shocking realm expert in the Lu family, finally reacted completely. Subtle but dense lightning formed between his hands, and the lightning was like a knife, fiercely chopping at Li Tianlan's back. The unique skill of the Lu family, 6 directions chop. Li Tianlan turned back in an instant and raised the silver spear. The air was like a silver flash, and the amazing silver spear had already smashed down on Lu Xiaoyuan's body. There was no unique skill, only power. Pure power. The gorgeous and majestic lightning flashed on the tip of the spear and collided with the lightning in front of Lu Xiaoyuan. The crisp sound of bones breaking could be heard clearly. The lightning tore the air and crackled. The body of the first expert of the Lu family was directly smashed by the spear and flew out. His body hit the wall, smashed the wall behind him, and fell directly into the living room, surrounded by rubble. "Uncle!" Lu Dongyu exclaimed with a pale face and looked at Li Tianlan with eyes full of horror. "Thunder-shocking realm? How could this be possible?" Lu Tianjing's mouth trembled like a convulsion. He looked at Li Tianlan in silence. Li Tianlan, who had smashed Lu Xiaoyuan away with a spear, had blood flowing from the corners of his mouth. He slowly wiped the blood and said flatly, "Whose son is this?" "Li Tianlan, what do you want?" "Don't forget that the Lu family used to be a giant family. We once had experts of the invincible realm, and we are the heroes of the whole Jianghu state. I am the old mayor of Huading, and here is my son, the current deputy mayor of Huading. How dare you kill us? Do you want to commit treason?" Lu Tianjing said fiercely. "Don't be so serious. The topic of treason is too heavy. Although I don't have any psychological burden, I can't let you put a label on me like you did to my father. What's so great about a giant family? I'm the only descendant of the war god family, but I'm still in dire straits." Li Tianlan chuckled and pointed to his hair. "My hair is white. Don't you see it? Father. Putting a label on him. The war god family." Lu Tianjing's face suddenly became as pale as snow. I'm Li Tianlan. Li Guangtu is my father, and Li Honghe is my grandfather." Li Tianlan's tone was calm. The expressions of all the people of the Lu family who were still alive changed dramatically. It was self-evident how sensitive and secretive this identity was. But the other side said it with a calm face. This was not stupidity. This completely showed that the other side did not plot against them tonight to let them live. What deputy mayor? What old mayor? The dead were just corpses. Do you know what it means for you to do this? Lu Tianjing was in a cold sweat, but he managed to calm down and looked at Li Tianlan. "If you kill us, there will be no place for you in Jianghu state. In the future, I don't have a future." Li Tianlan said softly, "I'm like this now. What future do you want to talk to me about? You came to kill me, so you should be prepared to be killed. Isn't this very simple? Lu Tianjing's heart kept sinking. From the other side's tone, he did not hear the slightest hesitation or uneasiness, only determination and killing intent. I swear in the name of the ancestors of the Lu family that the Lu family will never trouble you in the future and will keep your secret. How about that? Lu Tianjing took a deep breath and said in a dry voice. That's not what I want to hear. Li Tianlan put away the silver spear, walked to Lu Xiaoyuan's seat and sat up. He casually wiped the blood on his hands, picked up a lobster, and clumsily peeled it and took a bite. He said calmly, the Lu family now has two choices. Say it. Lu Tianjing's tone was bitter and hoarse. He could almost guess what the other side was going to say without Li Tianlan saying it. First, I'll kill your whole family and clean up the scene. As long as I don't leave any evidence, there must be someone outside to protect me. If I'm still alive when the truth comes out, I'll figure out another way. At worst, I'll leave Zhongzhou state. I'm a man who's about to die, and I don't want to talk about fame and future. Anyway, even if that day comes, you won't be able to see it. I'll fight to the death and perish together. Li Tianlan ate the lobster and said casually. Say the second one. Lu Tianjing's tone was calm and numb. I'm short of a dog in Huading, an obedient dog. I think the Lu family is very suitable. Although some members of the Lu family have died, there are always survivors. It's up to you whether you're willing to condescend or not. Li Tianlan continued. Li Tianlan, don't go too far. Before Lu Tianjing finished his words, another member of the Lu family's branch stood up and roared at the table. Li Tianlan waved his hand casually, and a chopstick in his hand flew directly to the man who spoke. The silver chopstick instantly sank into the man's forehead. Li Tianlan, whose eyes didn't change during the whole process, peeled the lobster seriously and said calmly, if you don't want to condescend, go to hell. A piece of peeled lobster meat was suddenly put on Li Tianlan's plate. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes and looked up. Lu Dongyu came to his side at some point. She calmly peeled the lobster in her hand and continued to deliver the lobster meat to him without saying a word. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes and smiled gloomily. Lu Dongyu, how dare you, you traitor! One of Lu Dongyu's distant uncles stood up and looked incredulously at Lu Dongyu, who served Li Tianlan. His eyes seemed to be spewing fire. Lu Dongyu did her own thing with a poker face. Dongyu, send him to hell. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes and smiled gloomily. Swish. Lu Dongyu waved her hand without hesitation. A dagger shot out of her sleeve and instantly pierced the throat of her so-called uncle. Women are the most sensible, aren't they? Li Tianlan suddenly said in a flat tone. I don't want to die. The Lu family can't die. Lu Dongyu's voice was stiff. Li Tianlan could clearly feel how unwilling and humiliated this woman, who stood in front of him condescendingly when they met for the first time, was. But she still stood there, and even the movement of her hands became more and more gentle. Go and get me some rice. I'm hungry. Li Tianlan pushed the plate in front of him and ordered, you can poison it. If you can't poison me, you will die. Lu Dongyu's face was slightly pale. She turned and left without saying a word. Lu Tianjing looked at his granddaughter with a complicated expression and said nothing. Tell me what you think. Li Tianlan looked at Lu Tianjing and said, I don't want to wait. I'm willing. Lu Tianjing seemed to have aged 20 years in an instant. His tone was vicissitude and sad. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, the Lu family is willing to be your dog. Those who are willing, kneel down. Li Tianlan lit a cigarette and said casually. Silence. 1 second. 10 seconds. Half a minute. Lu Tianjing got up shakily and was the first to kneel on the ground. Then everyone knelt on the ground. Some people burst into tears, and some looked numb. Who could have thought of crushing their knees and spines with pure force in Lu Tianjing's era? Who could have thought of it? Lu Dongyu came over with a bowl of rice. Looking at her grandfather kneeling on the ground, she hesitated and also wanted to kneel. "You stand." Li Tianlan took the bowl and chopsticks and said lightly, "You did a good job, but I don't trust you." He took a mouthful of rice and continued, "How can I trust you? Tell me what you think is important." He paused and continued, "For example, Kunlun City." Chapter 86. Li Tianlan was not worried that the Lu family would not cooperate. Both Li Tianlan and Lu Tianjing knew how unreliable the so-called loyalty and power bought with pure violence were. The Lu family's style of doing things had always been calm and steady. They were good at compromise and forbearance. This kind of family undoubtedly lacked a bit of bloodthirstiness and was even looked down upon most of the time. However, it was undeniable that this kind of family had the strongest vitality. Since Lu Tianjing chose to kneel, it showed that he had the confidence to come up with a bargaining chip to make Li Tianlan temporarily trust them, which was what Li Tianlan needed most. If it weren't for the excessive overdraft of his vitality with that sword strike, Li Tianlan might choose to play with the Lu family slowly. He was calm and cautious, taking risks and gambling. It was not impossible, but when there was a safer way, he was not willing to choose the most dangerous one. But with the complete overdraft of his vitality and potential, Li Tianlan changed. In the face of strangers, he became bloodthirsty and cold-blooded, and his mind became more and more crazy. In the face of the Lu family's revenge, he did not hesitate to kill them. Such a fierce move was undoubtedly risky, but Li Tianlan felt that there was nothing wrong with it. It was nothing more than gambling with his life for the lives of the Lu family. If the Lu family were more unyielding, Li Tianlan would not mind killing them all. Because it involved a senior official at the level of deputy governor, the high-level officials of Jianghu state were bound to be furious. Layers of pressure would be transmitted to Huading. No matter how clean Li Tianlan did it, the truth would be found out bit by bit. At that time, the academics would never stand up for him because of this matter, and Samsara and Sai City were also out of their reach. Li Tianlan did not know and did not want to know how the Dongqing clan would react. In his current state, it seemed that he had no capital to think about the future. This time he came to the Lu family, his purpose was clear. He would either be a dog or die. Under the deterrence of absolute violence, would the Lu family compromise for the sake of future survival? Or would they die for the sake of past hatred? Looking at Lu Tianjing and others kneeling at the table in silence, Li Tianlan's eyes were calm. The answer seemed to be obvious. This was the best result for both sides, and also the result that Li Tianlan wanted the most. As a mature wealthy family that had developed for nearly 100 years, the Lu family would give up grudges and loyalty when the whole family was facing death. This was the most realistic, mature, cruel and most likely result. A life and death struggle? Li Tianlan was determined, but the Lu family did not have the courage. "Tell me, Mr. Lu, how should I trust you?" The living room was filled with the smell of blood. Li Tianlan ate slowly and calmly. As an important part of the Special Warfare Group, the Lu family was also one of the important peripheral forces of Kunlun City. Before Lu Tianqing died, he was an invincible realm expert at his peak. It was impossible for such a family to have no secrets. If the Lu family could come up with a secret that could win his trust for the time being, Li Tianlan's seemingly risky move, but in fact, it was not a big gamble, was the right move. "Dong Yu," Lu Tianjing suddenly said, "go to your father's study. There is a mechanism under the third grid on the right side of the bookcase. There are 3 password walls behind the mechanism. The password of the first 2 walls is your grandfather's death date and your father's ID number. The third wall is your brother's and your birthday on the lunar calendar. Go in and take out the things inside." Lu Dongyu, who was serving Li Tianlan, was stunned. Her first reaction was to look at Li Tianlan subconsciously. "Go." Li Tianlan waved his hand casually. He had 1 foot over the thunder-shocking realm. With his current strength, at least in the Lu family, he didn't need to be afraid of anything. Lu Dongyu, whose eyes were a little confused, quickly went upstairs. Lu Tianjing knelt where he was, with a painful and miserable expression. Something very important? Li Tianlan looked at Lu Tianjing with a faint smile. It's not as important as the survival of the Lu family. Lu Tianjing's tone was a little numb. Li Tianlan took a deep look at him and said nothing. The old mayor of Huading did have the wisdom to compromise. The Lu family almost surrendered to him as a whole, which was much better than what he had expected before he came here. He had thought that even if the Lu family would compromise, it would only happen after only a few people were left in the family after they died. Who would have thought that Lu Tianjing would be so straightforward? Just a few people from the Lu family's branches died, and the main branch hadn't moved, but the old man directly knelt down. He was steady and calm. Thinking of what Li Beidian said when he told him the address of the Lu family, Li Tianlan smiled. He was really calm, so calm and rational that it chilled people's hearts. Lu Dongyu's charming figure disappeared on the second floor of the villa. Li Tianlan looked thoughtfully in the direction she left. His intuition told him that what Lu Dongyu brought back this time was definitely not trivial. The footsteps upstairs disappeared for less than 3 minutes, and then they sounded again. The sound of stilettos tapping on the steps of the villa was clear and light. Lu Dongyu trotted downstairs with a square metal box about 50 or 60 centimeters in her arms. The box was inconspicuous gray and white. It looked extremely old and inconspicuous. There was no password on it, only a small screen. The screen was dim and obviously not turned on. Lu Dongyu came to the dining room and directly handed the box to Li Tianlan. The corners of Lu Tianjing's mouth twitched, and he felt more and more upset. In the past few minutes, his heart could be said to be suffering. He hoped that Lu Dongyu could escape with the box, but he also hoped that she would come down quickly with the box. Now the result was clear, and there was no point in thinking about it. Bring your father here. We need his fingerprints and eye mask to open the box. Lu Tianjing ordered in a calm voice. Lu Dongyu did not hesitate this time and opened the box according to his method. There was a small wooden box in the box. Lu Dongyu took out the wooden box, put it in front of Li Tianlan, and stood beside him again. This is a gift from the Lu family to young Master Li, and it is also the biggest secret of the Lu family. Lu Tianjing looked at the box in front of him in a daze and said in a dry voice. Li Tianlan nodded, opened the box casually, and was suddenly stunned. In his sight, a soft light shone in the box, which made people feel indescribably comfortable. This was a piece of jade about the size of a fist. It had a perfect shape, was crystal clear, and was milky white in color. Several complicated ancient characters were engraved on the surface of the jade, and they were neat and tidy. The light from the jade was gentle and quiet, and it looked holy and solemn. Li Tianlan grabbed it and looked at it casually. He did not know the ancient characters, but he felt that it was something like a seal, like an antique. He frowned slightly, looked at Lu Tianjing, and said, "What is written on it?" Lu Tianjing's mouth trembled, and his voice was bleak. "Those are the ancient characters of the Qin dynasty." He looked into Li Tianlan's eyes and said word by word, "Receive the mandate of heaven, and live forever." Whether it was Lu Dongyu or the other kneeling Lu family members, they all changed their expressions and looked up at the same time. Receive the mandate of heaven, and live forever. Everyone knew what these 8 words meant in the history of Zhongzhou state. Even Li Tianlan, who had lived on the border since childhood, had heard of these words. "He's jade?" Li Tianlan pinched the jade in his hand and looked at Lu Tianjing and asked. "This is the imperial jade seal." Lu Tianjing said bitterly, "There is no folk saying that a seal can be carved out of a wall. He's jade and the imperial jade seal are completely different things. The one in young Master Li's hand is the imperial jade seal that has long been lost in history." Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes and said calmly, "I'm afraid the Lu family can't get this kind of thing, can they?" "This is..." Lu Tianjing's body trembled slightly, and he gritted his teeth and said, "This should belong to Kunlun City." Gu Qingfeng found the imperial jade seal in a relic, but he didn't have time to bring it back to Kunlun City. Instead, my brother secretly took it back to the Lu family. My brother could enter the invincible realm because of this thing. Gu Qingfeng? Li Tianlan asked with interest. Gu Qingfeng is the superior of the invincible realm in the previous generation of Kunlun City, and also the father of Gu Qianquan, the first elder of Kunlun City. He was my brother's teacher. Lu Tianjing said more and more fluently. The Imperial Jade Seal had changed owners. In order to survive, there was nothing he couldn't say now. When Gu Qingfeng just got the Imperial Jade Seal, he was ambushed and seriously injured. When he was dying, he was attacked by my brother, and the Imperial Jade Seal fell into the hands of the Lu family. For decades, Kunlun City didn't know about it at all. He attacked his teacher? Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows slightly, and his tone had a hint that no one could understand. What teacher? Lu Tianjing's tone was a little ferocious. Gu Qingfeng completely regarded my brother as a servant and a slave at that time. If he casually gave advice to my brother with unique skills, how could my brother barely enter the fire-flaming realm at the age of 35? Late bloomer? It's all bullshit. With my brother's talent, if he met a famous teacher, he would have entered the invincible realm long ago. He's a bullshit teacher. Later, even if my brother entered the thunder-shocking realm, it was Senior Gu Yinshan who secretly helped him. My brother owed him a great debt of gratitude. He asked my brother to kill Gu Qingfeng. How could my brother refuse? Li Tianlan frowned slightly. Lu Dongyu, who always paid attention to Li Tianlan's expression, said softly, Gu Yinshan was Gu Xinyan's uncle, and now he is dead. 20 years ago, Gu Xinyan's bloodline could only be regarded as a branch, and Gu Qianquan's bloodline was the direct line. But because Gu Qingfeng died early, and Gu Xingyan entered the invincible realm early, the highest power of Kunlun City is now in the hands of Gu Xingyan. But even so, Gu Xingyan is in Yuzhou all the year round, and at the same time, he leaves most of the affairs of Kunlun City to Gu Qianquan. This may also be a way for him to calm the internal contradictions. There was a dead silence in the restaurant. Everyone in the Lu family was pale, and their eyes were frightened. In the past, only Lu Tianjing and Lu Xiuyuan knew the news. Now that it was said, everyone knew what the consequences would be if it was exposed. If Gu Qingfeng had not died, even if Gu Xingyan entered the invincible realm, the leading power of Kunlun City would not have fallen into Gu Xingyan's hands. Once the news was leaked, regardless of what would happen inside Kunlun City, whether it was Gu Xingyan or Gu Qianquan, they would completely tear the Lu family to pieces in order to kill them or take revenge. This bargaining chip was so heavy. As they handed over the Imperial Jade Seal, it could be said that the fate of all the Lu family members had been completely controlled by Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan held the Imperial Jade Seal and remained silent. Today, I sent someone to kill you because I received an order from Gu Qianquan. Everyone knows that you disabled Zhong Xiaofeng. Gu Qianquan wants to use your death to provoke the contradictions between other groups and the Prince Group. In recent years, although the Prince Group and the Special Warfare Group have been very close, the former's dependence on Kunlun City has become less and less. But for the time being, the Special Warfare Group still needs the help of the Prince Group. Once you die, once the Prince Group is under pressure, they will continue to cooperate with Kunlun City. At that time, they can get more benefits. Lu Tianjing simply told everything he knew. Of course, this is just Gu Qianquan's superficial explanation. As for whether he has other purposes, I don't know. As far as I know, a big shot of the invincible realm outside the country has come to Huading a week ago. Gu Qianquan's visit to Huading this time seems to be a little strange. What do you want to say? Li Tianlan suddenly said. Lu Tianjing paused and then said flatly, I just have some of my own speculations. I don't have any evidence. Kunlun City, Gu Qianquan, a big shot of the invincible realm outside the country, the disappearance of Wang Yuetong. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes and said flatly, a big shot of the invincible realm outside the country? Who? The second master of the Jiang family outside the country, Jiang Qinyan, codenamed Black Hand, ranks 6th on the holy list. Of course, without the murderous weapon, Jiang Qinyan is qualified to use the Legend of Qin. Once he comes to Zhongzhou State with the Legend of Qin, his combat capability will only be more terrifying. Lu Tianjing whispered. The Legend of Qin, the murderous weapon of the Jiang family. This was the name of the third murderous weapon that Li Tianlan heard. When an invincible realm expert held a murderous weapon, his strength would almost double. Li Tianlan had no interest in the Jiang family. He just wondered if Jiang Qinyan had the strength to kidnap Wang Yuetong if he came to Zhongzhou State with the Legend of Qin. Did the Jiang family and the Wang family of Beihai not invade each other? Or were they hostile to each other? Li Tianlan held the jade seal in his hand and suddenly said, "Do one thing. Let all the curtain take action and thoroughly investigate the whereabouts of Wang Yuetong." His heart twitched and he continued to say, "I want to see her alive, and I want to see her dead body." Lu Tianjing silently picked up the phone and gave the order. Then he continued to kneel on the ground without saying a word. Was Lu Tianqing involved in my father's treason? How much do you know? Li Tianlan asked abruptly, playing with the jade seal in his hand and looking at Lu Tianjing, who had put down the phone. I don't know. Lu Tianjing shook his head. My brother had just entered the invincible realm and was seriously injured when he came back. He didn't tell me about it. Li Tianlan glanced at Lu Tianjing and didn't ask further. The treason case, from the beginning to the end, was a series of processes, and the truth was deeply hidden. Even if Lu Tianjing was Lu Tianqing's younger brother, it was normal that he didn't know about it. Tell me about the Imperial Jade Seal. Li Tianlan put the jade seal on the table. Before he could continue, his cell phone suddenly vibrated. Li Tianlan looked at the number, stood up abruptly, and answered without hesitation. On the phone, a clear and nervous voice sounded, a little uneasy and pitiful. You. Where have you been? Li Tianlan took a deep breath, suppressed his emotions, and said calmly, Where are you? I'm in the 9th building of Yonghua Villa. Chapter 87. 2 chapters were published in a row, and there was another chapter ahead. Li Tianlan said okay, and hung up the phone in confusion. He glanced at the dining room and looked at Lu Tianjing calmly. Can you handle these dead people? Lu Tianjing's eyes dimmed and he nodded. Very good. Li Tianlan picked up the Imperial Jade Seal on the table. I'm very satisfied with everything you said. From today on, I hope the Lu family can be a good dog. Can you do that? Lu Tianjing lowered his head to hide his eyes and nodded silently. A smile gradually appeared on the corner of Li Tianlan's mouth, and he said coldly, I know you're not convinced, but from now on, as long as I'm alive, the curtain is mine, and the Lu family is also my dog. You can consider betraying me, but you'd better think about the consequences. Consequences? Today, Li Tianlan only killed a few members of the Lu family, which was dispensable. Even if it was exposed, the people behind Li Tianlan could suppress it. But the Lu family gave him the Imperial Jade Seal and even exposed their biggest secret. If the Lu family betrayed him, Li Tianlan didn't even need to do anything. He just needed to tell the story to Kunlun City, and the whole Lu family would die without a burial place. Lu Tianjing smiled bitterly and nodded silently. Li Tianlan turned and left. Lu Tianjing and the others of the Lu family subconsciously wanted to stand up and see him off, but Li Tianlan's cold voice had already sounded. Kneel. Li Tianlan returned to Yonghua Villa almost as fast as he could. It was still quiet in building number 9. Li Tianlan hurriedly opened the door of the villa and strode into the living room. The human emperor had been fully stretched out in his hand. His expression was calm, but his eyes were extremely vigilant. In the dark living room, a tall and slender beautiful figure sat quietly on the sofa. The moment she saw Li Tianlan come in, she stood up straight reflexively and took a step forward. Senior brother. How are you? Li Tianlan was confused. Looking at Wang Yuetong who was intact in front of him, he whispered, Are you alone? Wang Yuetong nodded gently and looked at the white-haired Li Tianlan in the dark with complicated eyes. Aren't you missing? Li Tianlan pointed to the watch on his wrist and felt a headache. I went back to the Wang family of Beihai. Wang Yuetong whispered, but I didn't tell my father. She bent over and picked up her bag from the sofa. She fumbled in her bag and finally pulled out a small, slender box. The box opened. A 5 or 6 centimeter long glassware appeared in front of Li Tianlan. Inside the glassware, the crystal-clear purple liquid shone with an almost dazzling brilliance even in the dark. Wang Yuetong carefully held the glassware in front of her and said softly but firmly, "Senior brother, drink it." "What is this?" Li Tianlan instinctively felt that something was wrong and asked with a frown. Wang Yuetong did not speak. In the darkness, her beautiful eyes blinked slightly, as if they were filled with tears again. Li Tianlan smiled bitterly and nodded. He took the utensil from Wang Yuetong's hand and drank it. He said helplessly, "Thank you." Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan in a daze and said softly, "Dad doesn't want me anymore, and neither does the Wang family of Beihai. Senior brother, do you want me?" She looked at Li Tianlan silently. Her tone was a little happy, but also full of despair. "Even if it's only for one day." Li Tianlan's heart sank and he asked subconsciously, "What do you mean?" Wang Yuetong did not say much. She just whispered again, "Do you want me?" Before Li Tianlan opened his mouth, his body suddenly trembled. The purple liquid entered his abdomen and instantly turned into endless energy. It was an indescribable feeling. The soft energy quickly filled every inch of his skin. The weakness caused by excessive overdraft of vitality disappeared quickly. A familiar yet strange vitality soared in his body, as if it was endless. "This is," Li Tianlan's voice trembled. For a moment, he could not believe it. "This is the most precious treasure of the Wang family of Beihai. I stole it." Wang Yuetong wiped away her tears and said in a choked voice, "I don't want you to die." "Maybe you're right. I'm a bitch, but I just don't want you to die." "I'm a bitch, so be it." Sob. Li Tianlan suddenly stepped forward and held Wang Yuetong in his arms. He lowered his head and firmly kissed her little mouth. Wang Yuetong let out 2 muffled screams and looked at Li Tianlan with her eyes wide open. Her body instantly became stiff. After an unknown amount of time, just as Li Tianlan was about to let go of her, Wang Yuetong suddenly reached out and put her arms around his neck. She began to respond fiercely. It was a long, long time. The long kiss that seemed to be suffocating was young and passionate. It seemed to last forever or until the end of time. Li Tianlan's hand that was stroking Wang Yuetong's back subconsciously wanted to lift her sweater and put his hand inside. Wang Yuetong uttered a few meaningless syllables, but her arms around Li Tianlan's neck became tighter and tighter. The phone suddenly rang. The sudden ringtone instantly woke the two of them up. Li Tianlan's body shook. He looked at the caller ID and suddenly felt more embarrassed. Qin Weibai. At this time, she should have arrived in Billy State, right? Just got off the plane? At this moment, although Li Tianlan knew that Qin Weibai was thousands of miles away, he could not help but feel like he was caught in bed. Without hesitation, he pressed the answer button and said hello. He did not know why he sounded so guilty. "Where are you?" Qin Weibai's voice was soft and charming, like a spring breeze. At home." Li Tianlan subconsciously glanced at Wang Yuetong, but he saw that the little princess's big eyes were blurred. It seemed that she had not come to her senses yet. She just stared at him. Li Tianlan's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and his tone was a little stuttering. "By yourself? I'll ask the old man to accompany you and talk to you," Qin Weibai said softly. Li Tianlan hesitated. He wanted to lie, but when the words came to his mouth, he was ready to tell the truth. "Well, Yuetong is also there." On the phone, Qin Weibai suddenly fell into silence. Li Tianlan's palms were full of sweat, but he did not know how to explain. After nearly half a minute, Qin Weibai's soft voice continued to come through the phone. He could not tell what her mood was. I've tidied up our bedroom and changed the sheets. You can use it. Li Tianlan broke into a cold sweat and said subconsciously, no, little Bai, listen to my explanation. On the phone, Qin Weibai chuckled. Fool, it's okay. Her voice was still soft, with indescribable meekness and affection. I've arrived in Billy State. Wait for me, I'll go back right away. Li Tianlan stared blankly at the phone that was hung up. For a moment, his heart was in a mess. Senior brother, Wang Yuedong's face was rosy and charming. The darkness of the living room perfectly covered her face full of lust, but her voice was unusually charming, with a trace of shyness of a girl whose first kiss was taken away. Is it her? Li Tianlan nodded and said softly, I suddenly find myself quite a bastard. Yuetong, I'm a half-hearted scum, right? Wang Yuetong was slightly silent. After a long time, she said softly, I have a biological mother and 2 stepmothers. Li Tianlan, where did you go tonight? Seeing that Li Tianlan did not make a clear statement, Wang Yuetong seemed to be a little resentful and asked in a faint voice. I went out for a walk and found a good dog. Li Tianlan forced himself to calm down. He wanted to call Qin Weibai again, but he also knew that whether she was angry or not, it was very inappropriate to call him now. Do you like dogs? Wang Yuetong tilted her small head slightly. I also have a dog. I've been raising it at second uncle's place these days. I was going to take it to the Sky Academy. Senior brother, can I give it to you? Li Tianlan nodded with a smile. In a very short time, his physical condition was getting better and better. Although this energy was far from enough to heal him, it had temporarily brought him out of danger. The most precious treasure of the Wang family of Beihai? He looked at Wang Yuetong and thought of the long kiss just now. His heart was in a mess, and he could not figure out what the relationship between him and Wang Yuetong was now. He suppressed his inner thoughts and casually touched his pocket, trying to find a cigarette. However, he inadvertently took out the bulging imperial jade seal in his pocket. Li Tianlan was stunned. He took out the imperial jade seal and put it on the tea table, silent. It was dark in the living room. The milky white imperial jade seal quietly emitted a soft and holy light, which was particularly eye-catching. What is this? Wang Yuedong's eyes were attracted at once, and she asked subconsciously. This is a treasure. Li Tianlan chuckled. He did not intend to tell them about the Lu family. The Lu family was his dog, but this dog was still very useful in the special warfare group for the time being. If he made the Lu family break with the special warfare group now. Not to mention whether it was in his interest or not, even Lu Tianjing would not agree. Break with Kunlun City completely? That was also the tragic death of the whole family. There was not much difference whether they died earlier or later. It was the best choice for both sides to let the Lu family hide in the dark. Li Tianlan took a deep breath, looked at the imperial jade seal on the table, and said with a smile, after I study it for a while, I will cut it into a few pieces of jade and give them to you. The one who got the imperial jade seal would get the world. Li Tianlan had always scoffed at such words. But Lu Tianjing said that his brother Lu Tianqing entered the invincible realm with the imperial jade seal in front of him, which was worthy of his focus. The biggest secret of the Lu family could also be said to be Li Tianlan's most unexpected gain tonight. If he hadn't gone crazy tonight and gambled with the Lu family's life with his own, but used other means to slowly kill the Lu family, he might not have been able to get it in the end. The Curtain Intelligence Organization. The Imperial Jade Seal. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes slightly and counted the gains tonight, looking calmer and calmer. For him at this stage, whether the Imperial Jade Seal had that mysterious effect was actually secondary. Most importantly, he got the Curtain Intelligence Organization. He entered Huading alone for less than a month. By chance, fortune and misfortune depended on each other. Now Li Tianlan's physical condition was unprecedentedly bad. But at the same time, he got a small but at least inhuating, a foundation that no one dared to ignore. A foundation that belonged only to him. Ordered by heaven, live long and prosper. Under the soft light of the imperial jade seal, the handwriting on the jade seemed to become clearer and clearer. Li Tianlan sat quietly and looked at the imperial jade seal in front of him. In the darkness, his eyes narrowed slightly, deep and majestic. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.